brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Welcome, everybody. We're doing another two-way workshop. This is an effort to get more people motivated and give them some encouragement on their two-way projects. We go live quite a bit using the technology that's out there. One of our goals is to bring more people onto the internet, to be part of the conversation, to have a presence out there, to master some of the tools and systems that we have available to us that allow our voices, our individual opinions to get out there, so for others to appreciate and to consider, and ultimately to mobilize when necessary. And this is an effort that I do on Tuesdays and Saturdays that is to create a room, a place that we can get together. I send links out to quite a bit of the two-way media out there from different types of platforms and different types of efforts. And the one thing they have in common is that I have their email address. So there's lots of emails out there, and we'll continue as long as possible to open these rooms twice a week in order to get some conversation going, to unite our goals so that we can affect some change out there. We all have a lot of reach in our own different ways. That doesn't mean the heavy hitters out there. It doesn't mean the large projects. It means everybody. We all have people that we talk to in real life, and we all have similar goals. So let's figure out ways to utilize all that to more effectively make some change here, some positive change. See, SimonSaysTrain is out there. Awesome dude, and you're more than willing to, or more than welcome to jump in here if you're willing. So we have links over on the gun channel side. My email is gunwebsites@gmail.com. If you want to send me an email, I'll send you a link, and you're more than welcome to jump in. But we've got Bass jumping in, right? Let me get your name straight.
Yeah, that's correct. It's Bass, not Bass. It's like the fish.
Yeah. And you're jumping in from the gun channel side. Thanks. We've got a couple other links out there. See some green dots over there from people that indicate they're listening, or at least they've been moving around over on gun channels. So again, we'll leave the room open for anybody that wants to join in. I see some people are participating in the text chats. That's one of the efforts that we do with our live shows, is to keep a conversation going. You're not here to just listen to us, listen to me or anybody dictate or speak. This is a conversation. Right now, we happen to be at the end of 2018, at a time when the executive decision was made to change the interpretation of law and bypassing the congressional input to the, what would you say, the nature of the laws or the reason for the laws, and by a reinterpretation and a decision to choose to interpret the written law differently. We've had a pretty major change in regulation and in the system or the method of regulation. So this is a time when we as a community should be as active as possible to voice our concerns over the specifics and the methods used to achieve those goals. I think also why they were even considered goals and what influences were made or decided, or what influences were used to make the decision for the banning of the particular piece of plastic. And that can be from if it was really a problem, to who they got their advice from, to why they think this is a political decision that can be made without consequence. I've been seeing this a few times already over the years. I should say more than a few times, many times over the years in my awareness of what's been going on. This is not a single issue. This is something that's been going on repeatedly, and we can only expect it to happen even more so if we don't voice our outrage and our concern over the action and the way that it was taken. So this is the end of 2018, and we've basically are in a place where lots of people are efforting to be part of a firearms community online in real life. And we get together as an industry in a few weeks at the beginning of the year in January, and that's called SHOT Show. It's an industry trade show. It'll be something like 60,000 people attending, from manufacturers and distributors and gun shops to 2,500 or so media. And it is an industry show, and it's been going on since 1975, 1976. So it's 30 plus years in its history, and it is an industry show. So it's not designed, or it's not intended to be a political or legal type of place. But since so many two-way media are there, I've been efforting in the last few years to use it as an opportunity when we're all in the same town for the same week, with guns on our mind, to utilize whatever potential we have there to, again, unite on message and mobilize our audiences, so that we're, if possible, pulling in the same direction, affecting some change. I think by getting a situation like that, we create a situation where the political strategists out there might not think that we're such a consistent political punching bag. So I saw Simon threw me an email. I'm going to send him a link. Awesome.
So I would like to kind of get a conversation started about how people are saying that the ATF is who reinterpreted or redefined the word machine gun, and it wasn't actually the ATF that done that. It was the Department of Justice.
Well, whatever the thing was, it wasn't a change in the law. It wasn't a change in the wording of the law. It was a change in the interpretation. So that means a change in the regulation and a change in the enforcement, which is done by the executive branch solely, and had no input from the representatives, who would ideally be reacting to what we demanded. And there wasn't enough public demand for a change. There certainly wasn't any actual debate or process that went through to change the wording of the law. Instead, completely in the executive branch, 100% the same as Obama would have done in 2012, executive decisions were sent down to the branches of the executive branch, or the divisions of the executive branch that are responsible. And you may be correct. I'm not sure how to interpret what happened, since it's kind of unprecedented. It's not a typical situation. It's not spelled out in the law or anything. So the specifics on how it may have happened are necessary to be aware of for a thorough, debate or discussion about it. But the end result is that the executive branch decided and followed through, and effectively, gave us a situation that we're in today, where, the result is most stuff that we're not going to deal with it. But
well, and that's basically what happened. The Department of Justice rewrote the definition of what a machine gun is to cover that particular item, which I guess we're not going to say the item itself. But they
say bump stock. There's no. What do you mean? We can say bump stock.
Well, but that's basically the Department of Justice redefined what a machine gun is in order to ban the bump stocks. So they en routed around the they went around Congress on it and just wrote their own new definition of what a machine gun is in order to classify the bump stock as it would make a gun a machine gun, which it technically does not.
Okay, well, I haven't seen that. And that would mean changing the 1934 Title II of the National Firearms Act, and I don't see where they've changed that. They can say that they've changed their interpretation of that particular item to say that it classifies as a machine gun, but I haven't seen where they changed the law of what defines a machine gun. But yeah, if you got links to that, throw them in here. That's what it's all about, learning and sharing. But again,
I don't have the website because I'm on my phone, so I can't actually send you the link to it. But
honestly,
that
this
was
isn't time for that. We've had decisions specifically on that, and I think that in this case, a two-way workshop isn't the time to talk about specifics of infringements or the way things are. There's plenty of time in the world, and there's plenty of, I think there's more useful to put a discussion on the specifics of it in its own chat, in other words. But the other thing is we're doing this two-way media workshop weeks before SHOT Show, and we can talk about, they would love us to talk about specifics to the exclusion of imminent stuff with the calendar. And I'd rather not do that. I'd rather take this time, since I have invites out to people who will be attending SHOT Show, people that are into a media, and people that would normally are probably going to go to SHOT Show like we've done for the last 30-something years and report on the stuff that's there, and fairly oblivious to the fact that the rest of the two-way media is standing right next to them. And what I'm hoping to do is create some effort towards us as two-way media that show up at SHOT Show. There's something like 2,500 of them. That we can realize that we're all standing next to each other. We can take a moment and we can multitask, and we can be aware that each other are there, and we can get some effort, get something out of that, more than just showing up and describing about all the stuff we see. But I tell you what, I'm not going to force the discussion if no one else jumps in, and we can talk about that all day and night. I usually run these shows for at least an hour. It's been up for an hour to allow for anybody who might have got the email and not had a chance to jump in immediately. So far, only Bass has jumped in, but we do have some other links out there. And like I say, I'd like to leave the discussion towards how we can do something this month, well, next month at SHOT Show, but in the next few weeks, just because we only have a few weeks till then. So now I've been listening to Book of the Five Rings, which is a 17th century book on martial tactics that can apply to lots of things. And I think this is pertinent to what I want to talk about today. And I'm going to play a little blurb from this book on tape.
By their study of strategy, people of the world get used to countering, evading, and retreating as the normal thing. They become set in this habit, so can easily be paraded around by the enemy. The way of strategy is straight and true.
So that's the frustration that I've seen over the years, and something that I'd like to eliminate based, changing our behaviors to eliminate that from being a situation. And I've efforted at describing this in other shows over the years in different platforms. But this will be my 14th year at SHOT Show, and I have absolutely no interest in repeating for the 14th time the same paradigm when we're getting slapped around the other 12 months of the year, 11 months of the year, 50 other weeks of the year. We get slapped around like a bunch of dumbasses, and again we keep missing this opportunity to do something about it when we're all in the same town. We all spend quite a bit of money getting to the same town for the same week with the industry right next to us. So that quote there, let me see if I can get it to replay. Well, there's an advertisement. What the hell? There. Whoa. Oh, back to it. Thanks. So what did I do? Here we go. I guess I gotta mute the ad. Stupid. There we go.
The enemies. By their study of strategy, people of the world get used to countering, evading, and retreating as the normal thing. They become set in this habit, so can easily be paraded around by the enemy. The way of strategy is straight and true.
So this concept that we get into the routine of retreat and then get paraded around by the enemy. It's a tactic in battle, but it's, you know, an observation of battle tactics. But I see it as what's been happening to us as a community over and over, right? They throw something at us, they ambush us, they pick the set and setting, they pick every aspect of the confrontation, they set it up and they have the confrontation knowing that we are going to react in a consistent and predictable way. We act in that way and they gain. And not since 94, can I, maybe I shouldn't say it, but since 94 is the last time we had an overwhelming victory in that area where their little setup and strike had consequences. Those consequences echoed for 10 years during the assault weapons ban and after. And it took them a long time before they had the willingness to even approach these issues. And, you know, they picked a time when, for lots of different reasons, we're not united in our resistance or our, creating consequences for that. That's one of the things I feel frustrated about, is that we continually sit at rest and do nothing until we're attacked. And then at various levels of effectiveness, we resist the attacks. But even when we're victorious, we're not really victorious. We're victorious in a battle, but we've never been, this has been a long time since we've been victorious in any campaign or anything larger than a battle. David saying, should we try to be more proactive, maybe push a bill to protect trigger update grades or something like that? And I think that's something that we've definitely talked about before. Hey, Simon's jumping in. Thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, right on. So this is the first time you're joining. You want to take a moment and just kind of introduce yourself, talk about your project?
All right. My name is Tony Simon. I run a Second Amendment workshop out of New Jersey called The Second is for Everyone. Our entire purpose is to welcome people regardless of race, religion, color, sexual orientation into the Second Amendment community. I also introduce them to gun owners. I introduce gun owners and people that have never shot before to Second Amendment advocacy groups, NRA, ILA, and our local groups. And we do this at a range where, of course, the gun owners and our NRA instructors go out and everyone shoots guns. And we allow people to shoot just a bunch of different firearms. We've been doing that since 2015. Hooked up with the industry a little bit through cold calls and going to not SHOT Show, but NRA and Great American Outdoor Show, and just talking to people and handing out my business cards, and people have donated. So we have prizes and giveaways and stuff like that. The entire purpose is to grow the industry, grow the community by, I guess, non-traditional gun owners, and also destroy that stereotype that all gun owners are racist, white, rednecks that hate everybody that isn't a racist, white redneck. So, and we've been pretty successful. We started out, the very first event had 6 people. And then we got to the point it was so big that it couldn't fit in the classroom. So we had to start actually selling tickets and limiting the amount of people. So we do 40 people every other month at Gun for Hire Range in Woodland Park, New Jersey. And in 2019, we'll be in Pennsylvania and definitely in more than one range in Jersey. And I've been talking to people in Delaware and Maryland. So we're going to be growing.
That's awesome. So you said you're in North Carolina?
No, New Jersey.
Jersey. Okay. Why did I say North Carolina? Okay. So you're, well, obviously New Jersey isn't huge, but you're spreading out, or you've done workshops in other states around there too then.
Yeah, Jersey's pretty big when it comes, like, I'm from Virginia originally, so I didn't think Jersey was big until you're trying to drive from one point to the other. And you realize there are 3 distinct parts of New Jersey: North Jersey, Central Jersey, and South Jersey. And it is almost like it's 3 different states. Even going to the gun community, it's like, you know, more fuddy down south than it is up north. North is handguns. Central is a little bit of both, but you got some hunting culture there too. And then you have West Jersey. It's weird. You know what I mean? It's like different gun cultures in a state. So you have to try to touch on it all to get everyone involved.
Very interesting. I never think about it. I've only been up in that area a few times, and now that I'm older, I'm carrying, so I avoided it. So I didn't actually get to experience it, but that's interesting. It's just like, anyways, there's going to be differences, just that it's kind of the extract of it, since it's so physically smaller, it's going to, everybody's going to be tighter, I guess, a little bit tighter pack.
Yeah, it is. It's funny because again, not being from here originally, I moved up here in '93. Didn't see that. I was like, of course, Jersey's like all of Newark or, a city. And it's like, no, a lot of farmland, a lot of different things, areas separated by mountains and everything else. But it's a lot of fun, but we're behind enemy lines. You're behind enemy lines in New Jersey.
So I got lots of questions for you. First off, when did you say you started? What year?
2015, I actually started this up. I've been into firearms my whole life. Again, from the South. Junior ROTC. I shot competition, joined the Marine Corps, got away from it for a while, got out of the military, moved to New Jersey, and they make it so difficult to even get a permit to purchase that you have to have two references to say it's okay for you to own a firearm. Well, I didn't know anyone, so it took a while. But in 2012, I bought my first gun up here, a 1022, and decided I wanted to be a firearms instructor. So I took all the NRA classes again through Gun for Hire Range. And then when Sandy Hook happened, it just threw every plan I had. And, all the money pretty much almost went out the window because Jersey has 28 or 29 anti-gun laws that the anti-gunners have already in queue. They make no secret about it.
They're just waiting for opportunities to push them through, and it's most likely that they can get them through.
Yep, and this time they were able to get them through after the Florida shooting. They were able to force 6 of them through in June. One, which, of course, everyone knows if you're in the internet forums about the 10-round magazine limitation that took place on December 10th, but that passed in June. So that's what we have to put up with here. That's what got me started, though, the 2012 shooting at Sandy Hook. I started writing letters, and we wrote a form letter, me and my partner, Sean from Black Bag Resources. We actually typed out a form letter, and he put it on his business page. I put it on my Facebook page and every group we could find, and told people copy, paste it, or use it as a template for your own letter, but please write your legislators to stop, what we knew were coming down the pike. And people did. And then I went and testified in front of the assembly in New Jersey. I was nervous as I don't know what, because I look at myself like everyone does. I'm a regular dude. I've never done this. What does this entail? And it's a little nerve-wracking because you're talking to elected officials or legislators, and then
on their turf, playing their game, and you're new to it all.
Oh, and believe me, they have the room set up. They're sitting higher than you. You sitting in an uncomfortable chair in front of a microphone that's too far away. It's all a mind game. And I just decided to just sack up, pull your pants up, and Mr. Smith goes to Washington. I'm gonna go and say my piece. You took my money from taxes. I'm gonna talk to you now. And it was 3 minutes of terror. I couldn't tell you what I said. Luckily, someone videotaped it, so I was able to watch what I said, and I didn't sound as nervous as I was. But that started it off. We had 200 pro-gun people. We had 11 paid anti-gun people from the same groups, and the same people show up every time. And I noticed there weren't any people of color there. And I knew it. People of color go to the range all the time. People of color own firearms. Why aren't we participating in the political side of it? So at that point, I called every Second Amendment group in the state and said, hey, do you have a program in place that encourages people, of color to come out and be part of the political process? And all of them told me no. So my friend Sean said, Tony, why don't you start something? I'm like, I'm just a regular person. Other people start stuff, not regular people. He was like, who do you think everyone else is? So I called Anthony Calandra at Gun for Hire, and I said, this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to have something to get Black people to actually come to take part in the politics. Also, come to the range and see the Second Amendment is for you. It's your right. And he was like, what about Thursday? And I'm like, holy crap. And I was like, well, what about next Thursday? At least give me a week to put some word out on Facebook. And that's what I did. And of course, you learn the lesson on Facebook. When 26 people say they're coming, that means no one's going to show up. So that's what I did. And 4 people showed up a week later. And that was our very first one. And I was discouraged because, again, I thought, we'd have a room full, and we had 4 guys. They were like 1 Hispanic, 2 Black, or 3 Black guys. And we just talked. We spoke about what Jersey gun laws were. We gave them a safety brief, and then we went to the range and shot and came back out and gave them paperwork to get their pistol purchase permit or firearms ID card, and told them about the NRA, because at that point it was just me and my friend, you know what I mean? So we told them about the NRA, we told them about New Jersey's groups ANJRPC and stuff like that, and how to join, and we just gave them information, and that was the very first one, and I've been having them every other month since 2015, February 2015.
That's awesome. Well, I know we're first meeting and chatting here, but this is a two-way workshop, so I'd like to dig into some of the motivation and the, how you get past some of these hurdles. We all have them, and the thing is, so many people that are listening to this are hearing this, and like you said, you think, well, I'm just me. This is stuff other people do. People that have illusions of grandeur or something that are going to do this, but our country is really formed from a bunch of people who said, enough's enough. It's time for us to do it. We have a system in place that allows us to do it. And so, I don't know if we can tell people how to enlighten them, other than to explain the various situations that people like yourself have gone through to challenge yourself to do it. But then I can only imagine, I've done lots of efforts similar, not boots on the ground, but on the internet, a lot easier than actually doing it. But when the first turnout is not what you expect, in other words, it's not a success from day one, so it's it's an obvious path. How do you motivate to get to that second month and then the third month, and how did you deal with the growth of what you'd like to see versus the growth that happened? And I don't know, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but do you have any insight onto for people that are out there efforting but having some frustration, like how to keep your head in the game? And I don't know if that's a great question, but how to keep yourself motivated so that you're there for the people that show up.
Yeah, I'd actually started talking, but I was on mute. I'll say what I did. Because after the first one, when 4 people showed up, I was really devastated. Not because I thought it was going to be some overwhelming success, and I was going to be carried around the room on people's shoulders screaming freedom, but I was like, okay, what do I do? And Anthony Calandro, the owner, said, "You have another one." And I was like, yeah, but I took up your classroom for 4 hours, and we had 4 people, and he said everything has to start somewhere. And the success behind this is people like him. And I'm not kissing his butt, but I'm going ahead and say he was willing to give up a classroom at his range one day. I said, let's do it every other month, because I didn't think I could fill the place every month. And he was willing to give up that one room for once every other month, regardless of how many people came. So we spoke about it, and we came up with the range gets $10 a head. I get nothing. I didn't want anything. I wanted it to be able, if you're at work and you have those 2 or 3 people that always comes to you in secret at the water cooler and go, I'd like to go to the range. I've never shot a gun. I wonder what it's all about. I didn't want it to be financially impossible for a regular person to go, okay, I'll take you guys. It's $30 out of my own pocket. If you don't like it, you don't ever have to come again. So I was doing it out of pocket. I didn't expect to make any money. That helped and harmed me later on, but I was basically willing to do this for free to start, and that helped. A good team behind you of friends, going to Second Amendment events and being part of the Second Amendment activist community helped, because people saw you were earnest. They saw you'd put in the work before, and now you're doing something, and they were like, okay, we can get behind this. So there is no shortcuts to this. You can't just sprinkle some fairy dust and go, okay, I'm going to just start up a Second Amendment group and everyone's going to flock to me. You're going to have to put in work to get support from the community that's out there. Also, mine is a workshop. I'm not competing with anyone else for dollars, you know what I mean, for donations or subscriptions or memberships. That also helps, because I'm not making enemies. I'm just trying to bring everyone together and introduce them to the LGBT community, to the African American, the Latino community. I'm just trying to grow it. I have no other motivations. But NRA shows and all that stuff cost money. I was using my tax return money to go back and forth. I still use my tax return money. I used overtime. I used comp time. Finally, people had been telling me for 2 years that I need to start charging something. So now I charge $10. So a ticket is $20 and I give the range half. So that's what I'm doing now. I also provide pizza. So it's like $150 every time I host one of these events. It is not a money making venture. You really have to look at it. I'm not going to say as a call. I was ticked. I was ticked off and I got radicalized. I can just put it that simple. I got angry because I knew these people were just trying to take our rights away. You can go into it with a better plan than mine, but mine was never to make money. But you really have to be determined to make this happen. And it has to be another motivation. And also friends. It takes getting to know people. It takes being consistent. It takes going to other rallies. It takes going to meetings held by Second Amendment groups and actually meeting people and talking to them. You have to build your own base. And that's what I did.
I'm not going to suggest that you're a martyr either. I'm sure that when the classes started to increase in size, you start to have a relationship with those people that attend. And for me, the workshops like this, like you say, it's not a financial thing. It's more of a motivation thing, how to keep in the game. Like you say, you've resigned a long time ago that it's not going to be a money-making thing. But is it worth your time? It wouldn't be if it was just like 4 people showed up and you never heard from them again, and that happened over and over. That could be a little discouraging. I suspect, though, that you've had some success stories, people that, not everyone, of course, you can expect everyone's going to become a gun guy, but maybe talk about some of the successes, people that have come through the class and stuck with it.
Okay. My goal is not even to make everyone a gun guy. All right. So that if you go in there thinking everybody's going to come out wanting to be Annie Oakley or a tactical shooter, you're going to be sorely disappointed. But yes, we've had people come in that have never really gone to the range. You know, they bought a gun but never went back. All right, I got those guys showing up now because it's fun. It's something to do. They can show new people their firearms and shoot and spread that thrill. So now I got a guy who just had a gun in the closet who probably wasn't active at all because that gun was just a thing that he more than likely just forgot about or broke out once or twice a year. Now he's doing it every other month. Now he's showing up at meetings. Now he's joined a Second Amendment group. Yes, I have people that do that. I have anti-gunners come through. I have anti-gun people come through that have never shot a gun in their life, and I say ask questions. There's no name calling. There's no snowflake this. There's no libtard that. I will not allow it. This is a Second Amendment workshop, and this is about growing the community. So I've had anti-gun people come in, brought in by their gun-owning friends from work and whatever, and I say ask questions. We have Second Amendment advocacy groups here. We have knowledgeable people here that can actually answer real questions. NRAILA usually sent their grassroots coordinator down. The NSSF actually came out to one of our events, and we answer questions. My thing is not to turn these people into pro-gun people, but really answer questions and let them think on their own. And if they become pro-gun, great. We've had gays, people in that community come out, and I guess they thought people were going to call them names or something weird. I don't know what they thought, but end of the night, they were going from port to port to port, regardless of color, Asian, black, white, whatever. They were going from port to port, talking to people and just having a good time. And I'm starting to see more and more of these same people not only show up, but bring their friends. And now you see like 6 degrees of separation. Someone that brought someone else is bringing someone new. We had guys bring their moms out. One guy was from Ecuador, and his mom all grew up. You know, she came from Ecuador, and she thought only police and thugs had guns. By the time she left the event, she was firing an AR-15, asking her son, "How do you get one of those? Because it's fun." I had a guy bring his mom out for her 50th birthday because it was on her bucket list to shoot a gun, but he didn't know how to go about it. Next thing you know, she brings her daughter and 2 of her daughter's friends to the next event. Like, it's just awesome. You know what I mean? It just grows organically. You have some wins, you have some losses. I have some people that showed up and I never saw them again. But you have to put in work and expect that kind of thing. But yes, before every event, I'm nervous that no one's ever going to show up.
The last one was the last one, right?
every single time.
But that's awesome. When you start talking about the people that bring other people, think about all the conversations that are happening out in the world as a result of their experience now, and they're knowing people in the community and seeing the community for what it really is, and not what a perception that they've been given.
That's the thing. It's not a secret to us. We all know the truth. We for the most part know that we welcome everyone. It's just getting that word out when the media pretty much is against you.
So many ways we can go at this. I want to talk about a couple of things, since again this is a workshop that I'm trying to I'm not sure where I saw you saw us on the YouTube side. I apologize I didn't have your email, but I'll start including you in the emails that I send out. But I've gone to the Gun Rights Policy Conference. It sounds like you've been to that, and the new two-way workshop that they've done for the last couple of years before that. And my experience is mostly from the internet or websites, and then to YouTube. And after YouTube, last couple of years, more into the social media platforms that are out there. But one thing I've not done, except to experience them, is the hands-on, boots on the ground. There's lots of people that are efforting in real life to do things that I got to meet at the 2A Summit and at the Gun Rights Policy Conference. At least I got to hear about their projects and meet them and see that the dedication they have to the whole concept. Which you can, it's a lot easier to appreciate that when you meet somebody in real life and just see how they handle themselves and that kind of thing. So one of the things I'm trying to do with this workshop is bridge a gap between the people that are fluent and use the internet almost exclusively, like myself, and then a bunch of people that are out there that are doing what I consider more important, more difficult and less rewarding work of doing things in real life with communities and people, and especially behind enemy lines and in areas of the country that are typically considered by everybody, not gun areas or whatever, or 2A or whatever we want to call, like just legitimate recreational gun type of places, where it's just not one of the recreational activities people partake in for no reason other than they're not aware or know that they're welcome, right? So anyway, I've seen a lot of people putting these efforts in there. So I guess one of the questions I want to ask you are, it sounds like when you started this whole thing, you weren't like a giant presence on the internet and then expanded into real life. You started kind of in real life. And then I'm wondering how, it sounds like you use Facebook a bit, but is there any success or failures or things that you're looking for as far as tools, or I don't know.
I used, for me, okay. How do you put? And I really do put it as I got radicalized. I really did, because I got frustrated. So right after Sandy Hook, I started looking for 2A podcast, Second Amendment related podcast, gun stuff. And I ran across Paul Lathrop in the Polite Society podcast. I ran across Reverend Ken Blanchard and Black Man with a Gun. And I'm listening to those guys. And then I started the diversity shoot. And I was like, well, I need to get word out to the firearms community. So I just started emailing people like Paul Lathrop, and he had me on his show. And Ken Blanchard had me on his show. And then I contacted Firearms Radio Network, and I was listening one day, and they were looking for co-host. So I contacted them at the Gun and Gear Review podcast. And I was like, this is what I do. Can I come on your show, talk about, firearms or whatever, what their platform was, but then also talk about what I do. And that was almost 3 years ago. So I've been on every week, and that helps get the word out. And then, of course, I know every week in 2018, I made it a goal to be on someone else's podcast. And that helps grow it. Social media, joining groups. I've been banned and kicked out of groups because I copy and paste some of my stuff or the pictures or our information out there, and groups get offended and kick me off. Ruger threw me off for their page. A lot of other companies threw me off for their page because all you're doing is advertising what you do. Yes, that's all I'm doing. That's why I'm there. I'm not there to have a debate over 9mm versus 45. I was really there just to spread the news about what we were doing in Jersey. And it sounds kind of self-centered, but really I just wanted this thing to grow and get word out as far as I could. And that's what I did. And then I started the Second is for Everyone podcast at the end of last year. And we had some problems with production schedules. So now I took it upon myself and I started doing that in April full time, almost every week. And that has grown. And we have, a few hundred people that download that every week. So that helps, but it has to grow organically. You can't force it. I didn't buy followers or anything like that. I started posting every week on Simon Says Train on Instagram. Excuse me, every day on Simon Says Train on Instagram. I started posting every day on The Second is for Everyone or Simon Says Train. It's just put in work. I put in about 4 to 5 hours of solid work on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and then of course my show's on YouTube also. So I mean, it's just work. It's slowly growing, and I'm 48 years old, so it's not like it came easy for me to jump on, jump on and start doing selfies and posting stuff up in my story. But I knew it had to be done, and it's one way to actually spread word about your project without reaching in your pocket. Never. If you're doing something Second Amendment, don't waste your money on boosting it on Facebook, by the way.
Good point, because they will take your money, but then not put anywhere near the effectiveness to it if you were selling a scented candle or something.
Anything. I mean, it's just they're against you. So don't even worry about it. You will get kicked off if you want to have more than one account. Go ahead, but I just get in the Facebook jail all the time. And what I do is post on my page, "Hey guys, can you spread this because I'm in Facebook jail again?" And people will take up the banner. So that's what we do.
So now I'm looking at diversityshoot.com. Is that your main website then?
That is, yeah, that's my website.
Okay, so if people want to find you there, now you've got the Simon Says Train on Facebook as well.
Yep.
And is there someplace else? So I'll be throwing some links into the description.
Okay. Yeah, The Second is for Everyone. That's also on Facebook. Yep. Oh, and that's our podcast.
Okay.
We're, of course, on iTunes. We're on Stitcher. Just any one of them, put it in. And then we also started a shooting event called the Minuteman Challenge. And the reason we did that is to get regular guys to start going to the range and shooting and building up a skill set. You know who Four Guys Guns is, right?
Sure.
Yeah, their channel. They were doing that weekly drill down for a while using RE Factor tactical targets. And I thought that was an awesome way to get people to shoot and have fun. A timer, some targets, and some cards. So I contacted Whitey, who's real cool. We're friends now. But then it was like, hey, Whitey, he knew me through Facebook, internet, just like, you guys do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'd like to blatantly steal your idea and put it out. He was like, go ahead. Actually, I videotaped that on the floor of the NRA show, me having that conversation with him. And it's called the Minuteman Challenge. And all we're trying to do is get regular guys to come out with their guns and shoot some drills. And it's low cost. It's not like IDPA where you have to have special equipment. It's like 3 mags, 200 rounds. One time we'll do 22 lever actions or 22 mechanical. Then we'll do 22 anything, semi-auto, mechanical. We'll do pistols. We'll do rifles. It's not going to break the bank. It's just good, friendly competition where we want to promote camaraderie. And it has worked. This is our second year. We've got corporate sponsorship now, which is awesome. And it's just something held at Range 14 at Fort Dix. And it's just fun. And these guys have come out, girls have come out, as young as 12, I think. One of the young ladies that competed. And it's just fun with guns, but it gives you an excuse to grab your gun and come out. And we do different types of guns. And if you don't have one, we'll provide it. Just show up. We've had
and how often is that shoot?
We do those probably every other month or every month. If you look at our old schedule, I think we did it 6 times last year.
And then that's got to be conducive to when you have the workshop and people are experiencing it. Now you're giving them some opportunities to go do some recreational stuff or some competition stuff with it.
We're trying to make people understand that guns, yes, it's a tool. It's our Second Amendment is there against tyranny and for personal protection. But guns do a lot more than that. You can have fun with them. I just started doing a little history on different firearms that I had. on my show, just to talk about, it's just not about fighting tyranny. It can be entertaining, it can be historical, it can be all the above. Um, it's just not a one trick pony. And some people don't understand, like, why would you ever own this? And it's like, well, I have surplus guns because I like the history behind it. I have an AR-15 because I can defend my home with it, and it's a very accurate firearm. I have air guns because they're a stress reliever that I can shoot in the backyard, tiny groups, deep breath, breathe, trigger control, kind of zen like fat dude yoga. Um,
But without
I
having
don't
to
have,
go to the range and take an afternoon and all that, you can just go do it in an hour or whatever and have the same
yeah,
fun.
exactly. It's the same fun. I'm punching holes in paper at a much reduced distance, but it's all just fun. It's not about shooting people in the face or voting from rooftops.
So that's another, Kevin Dixie, he did an
Hmm.
interesting talk at the Gun Rights Policy Conference this year to kind of wake people up about the whole Second Amendment and 1776, when this is a big country with 360 million people, and not everybody thinks the same way about 1776.
Hmm.
So when you've got these workshops and you're reaching out to people in, let's say, sub communities that aren't uh, typically reached out to, and they show up and they're, I'm assuming, a bit tentative, especially if they come by
Hmm.
themselves and they're not, brought in by a friend or something. Um, do you get into the politics? I don't know. I'm assuming you don't
Yeah.
give them some sort of a form to fill out, but do you get some kind of impression? Are people there? Or what kind of percentage of people are there, to give you an actual question,
Um,
what percentage of people are there for self-defense versus just experience with guns?
you know what? I never asked that question at the event, but becomes apparent. Like, we have, who's ever shot a gun, who's ever held a gun, that kind of thing.
Right.
Um, and that just helps us with our safety brief. But everyone gets a safety brief. I don't care. Um,
But it
I
lets you
can't
know a
depend
lot
on
if you're
someone's
talking
word.
to a bunch of guys that have been in the military, or
Hmm.
a bunch of people that have been in the military, and then a bunch of people that have never experienced a gun. That's a different safety brief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different safety brief, but we make it quick. But it's a sprinkling of everything. But yes, I have some people that come into it. 1776 wasn't about our freedom kind of thing, and yes, I noticed that. I'm a black guy. I'm aware of the history of America, um, and I put it out there. I talk about the racist history of gun control in America. I talk about what happened in California with the Mulford Act. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I put that all out there and go, okay, that was then. This is now. This is now. You're right. You cannot change the past, but you darn sure understand the reason for gun control was people control. It never changed. Blacks were the beta test. We were the first ones. 1620, the first gun control law happened in the colony of Virginia. 1619, first black people showed up. 1 year later, they had a law that says black people can't own guns. So yeah, understand that that's the past, and that can be your future. They can victimize whoever they want when people are unarmed. Don't allow yourself to be unarmed. This is why. Now let's talk about this, and any questions you have we can answer. But if you continually just want to be a victim of history, then you're never going to improve upon yourself. Okay, history was history. Nobody's going to be able to take that back, but you can learn from it and not repeat it. And that's what we push a lot. Anti-gunners, yeah, they come in and they're polite because we're polite back. There's no reason to be rude here. If you're going to be rude, you're going to be asked to leave, regardless of which side of the argument you're on, because
Now,
I don't need this.
now, when you say anti-gunners, I'm guessing, because you mentioned before they're brought in by friends of theirs to experience it, or
Hmm.
I'm guessing not paid, on the clock
No,
anti-gunners. So are they? Do you get a chance to know if you've swayed their minds, or if you've given them something to
yeah,
think about, or if they've even changed their minds?
yeah, I actually have. And we have the conversations, especially afterwards, because it's about breaking that ice. You have a room full of strangers at the beginning. You go through the brief, why am I here? This is another group that's here. We're going to introduce them. So after I introduce the group of the women's group, if I introduce somebody from the Latino group, shooting group that is there, so everybody sees the sum of everything there. Then we break out the food. Everybody has pizza and drinks, and then we do some prizes and have some giveaways. And then you go to the range and shoot, and we do it in relays. So now the room is broken down, and like there's 20 people here and there's another 15 on the range. so I can talk to them, go from table to table, and so can my crew. And we get in groups and we have conversations. And then we cycle them in and out, so we're able to actually talk to people. And we've had people who just didn't believe civilian firearms ownership. They didn't believe in it. And after some conversations, they start to understand where we're coming from. And they might not be swayed that day, but now they've had a conversation with someone who they'd consider the enemy. You know what I mean? And they see you as people now. They see you as a guy who has a regular job, see you as someone with kids or something. So that whole image in their head that you just don't care about anyone but your guns is gone. So,
and you haven't forced them to experience it. They've been able to experience it. And like you say, they may not change their mind right now, but I have to assume that when someone comes along who has no real knowledge and tries to give them a narrative, they're going to be able to question that themselves and not be told to question it, right?
Exactly. They can think on their own. And that helps. Again, I can't sway you. You're an adult. But I can show you. I can show you that what you've been thinking is not true. Now it's up to you to apply critical thinking to that. And I welcome you back the next time and the next time. And it's helped. It's caused arguments. It's caused people to open their minds. And I think that's always a good thing. And it's good to talk to people that are anti-gun and have this belief, just so you can practice your own point of view. Why do you think the way you do?
I only assume that after that much experience with people that aren't there because they're self-motivated, that you've got to have more ability to just reach them in general conversation and stuff, being able to know what they're the words that they're going to appreciate and the words that they don't want to hear and that kind of thing.
Yeah, you have to be willing to actually meet someone well more than halfway, minimum 60%. You got to go out and expect to hear the same stupid arguments that we always do, but not roll your eyes and not go, oh my God, here we come again, because this may be the first time they've ever had this conversation. And we all know it's the 1000th time we've had that very conversation. So that's what we have to do. We have to understand this is their first time. And I've not had anyone take the time out to come and troll us or anything like that. But I've had state troopers come by in civilian clothes, which I wondered what that was about. Like, what did they think we were promoting? And real nice guy, but he couldn't tell me why he came or who put him up to come in or who invited him. He was just there. And then I've had people come by who just came to listen to our talking part, didn't shoot, didn't eat pizza, and then they just left. So, yeah, some stuff. Understand you are talking about firearms in an anti-gun state, and I'm making it well known that I'm in a state that doesn't like gun ownership. So I have no idea who's been looking in on us, but yeah, you get kind of tinfoil hatty a little bit when someone doesn't participate or they show up out of the blue with no connection to your event.
I mean, I can't imagine what that's like in real life, but just from hearing you talk about it, I try to look at the silver lining, and that's that if they did have some skepticism or some I'm not sure what you're doing. You obviously were a great ambassador, and now they know that there's, not just black and white. Like, it's not just anti-government and rah, 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 right?
Heck no, I've started my event off going, I am not one that wants to vote from the rooftops because I'm a middle-aged fat dude. I am not climbing on a roof. I'll just let you know that right now. I like my stuff. I don't want a second revolution or a second civil war. I just want us to vote and use the powers that we have to stop people from taking our civil rights.
So you've got throwing some links out there. You got 182 subscribers on your YouTube channel. I'm hoping that with our 26, you'll have at least 200 by the time we're done with today's show. But how big a piece of your overall projects is your YouTube?
Oh, YouTube. I'm going to try to use 2019 to actually grow YouTube. I've done absolutely nothing with it except throw some random videos up and, of course, use, I think it's called Stitcher or Spreaker, to post my podcast there. That's all I've done with it. So I've really made no effort to grow YouTube. But that's going to change in 2019 because it adds another platform. Some people don't have podcast You know what I mean? Some people don't know anything about podcasts or downloading, but they know YouTube. So I've directed them to YouTube so they can hear our podcast. I think that's important. Also, because I do gear review on the podcast, the Second is for Everyone podcast. So I'm going to start filming some of that and putting that up too. So I'll be growing it in 2019. So if you join, you'll see cool stuff. I'm also on Patreon, and I think that's an important link to do between Patreon and YouTube to post stuff and let patrons see what you're doing.
I didn't look. I'm gonna go grab your Patreon one too. Then, so obviously, right now there's a bunch of back and forth on attitudes on Patreon. I'm a big fan. I think that we as a gun community have a pretty big presence on Patreon, and it allows the creation of content like yours, where you're not trying to profit off of the individual showing up at the workshops, but you've got a population of 360 million people in this country that are potentially interested. Definitely 10 million gun owners or more that could potentially be interested. And, you know, $20 a month type of subscription to a project, a valid project, you know, isn't a wallet breaker for some people. So I really find Patreon to be the democracy of funding, so that we're not beholden to any entity, or you've got a range that was kind of a sponsor in a way that they allowed you to have some time and space there, so that if that somehow became gone, you know, was gone from your inventory or your resources, that, you know, we have potential with Patreon to not be restricted to what we personally can bring to the table funding wise, when we've got valid projects like this.
Yeah, that was the problem, because I have a GoFundMe page and it just seemed to have hit a wall. I think because everybody's on GoFundMe. You know, I want to go on vacation, give me GoFundMe money.
Right.
And I'm like, no, I'm trying to make something grow organically. I don't want to beat people up that come to the event, because again, I want them to bring 2 or 3 people with them. I don't want it to be financially crippling for them to pay that person's way. So yeah, I'm asking, you know, for people outside to donate to the events. Um, I also have the clothing for our t-shirts. I sell t-shirts, and because I'm a big dude, it's hard to find t-shirts from anyone. So I found a guy who can make shirts up to 6X for us. And as a joke, I said, I'm going to sell clothing, and it's going to be like 511, but for big dudes. So it's called 1022clothing.us.
Nice.
And a friend of mine actually bought that domain name. So we hooked it up with our t-shirt guy. So you can go and check out 2A4E t-shirts on there. And I do a blue shirt for free. As far as I'm concerned, I don't get any money off of it. That's our rally shirt. And it's called The Second is for Everyone, but it has gun control equals racism. And the reason I did that was just for rallies, for when they take our pictures, you know, and they always try to get a picture of the rally. And I want shirts to show up that actually have that, so someone can actually Google it and see the racist history of gun control in this country. And again, start a conversation. And they can follow it if they want. It's $10. Again, it's just my t-shirt guy. He recoups his costs and mailing it out to you. Our promotional shirt's $25, and yes, I get a piece of that. But yeah, $10 is the thing. Again, I'm not trying to make money on it. If you want to support us, yeah, buy a $25 promotional t-shirt. But I want, like, you got a group of 5 guys that are going to go to a rally at your state capital. Dude, $50 buy-in, all you guys can wear the same shirt. That's how I looked at it.
I'm trying to find the Patreon. What's the
the Second is for Everyone podcast.
Okay. So now I'm going to go back to the cost of the workshop. And when I was talking to Nicole from Pink Pistols at the Gun Rights Policy Conference this last year, she had an interesting point about, if you offer something for free, people are going to, interpret it as useless, or, something, some other thing. So if you charge them, like you say, even at $10 or just something, then it's appreciated more. Have you found that when you went from free to a slight charge that was the case?
Very much so. Oh my goodness. My father used to say, you give something to people for free, they think it's worth exactly that, nothing. Um, and also, you'd get people saying they were going to come and not. Well, I have to buy food. I can't buy food for 40 people and 20 people show up. I can't, you know what I mean? I can't afford that. So yes, I started selling tickets. Again, it's $20 total, but I get 10. But all of a sudden, everyone was like showing up. I would fill a room, and that was great. And we had different people come every time. I mean, we have a base of people that can't wait to come because they want to introduce new people to guns. But then we have just new people continually come. We have guys that came a year ago show up with two or three friends this time. The sucky thing about social media is that, what do you call that? Darn, I can't. I had it right on the tip of my tongue. Sometimes when you post stuff, people don't see it.
Right. The stream of it is, the tendency is to not go back. The tendency is just see what's there, and they just don't care what they missed or what went by.
Yeah. Or they'll see it like 2 days later. Oh, I didn't know you were having an event. So it really, that kind of stinks because some people don't get your information. So yeah, I'm going to start actually using more direct marketing now and just shooting people direct emails when they buy a ticket because, of course, I have that information. I just didn't want to annoy people with it. I didn't want to be seen as a bunch of spam going out. But now I'm going to just start inviting people, maybe shoot them the entire year's schedule. You know what I mean? Like every other month or something, just so they know what's upcoming. But it's always growing. You got to keep always growing, always moving, appearing on podcasts all over, and sooner or later someone will hear you. Someone will stumble across what I'm doing, and that's it. It's just work, but I think it's really, really worth it.
It is, and it's the kind of stuff that nowadays, at least, we don't have to do all this work in a hidden. It's all, people can be participating in it at all different kinds of levels and
Mm-hmm.
different paces.
The scary thing about Jersey, though, and depends on your job. Like if you're a school teacher in New Jersey, you might not want to be seen at one of my events.
Because of the repercussions, or the picture gets out on Facebook, and then there's consequences, I guess.
There's consequences, and understand, Jersey's unfair. Jersey's Jersey's set up to be an anti-gun empire, and I know it sounds ridiculous. We have a pistol purchasing permit process. Wow. That is written. These are the rules. This is what the police do. You go there, you fill out your information, you get your fingerprints done, you pay them the fee. They have 30 days to do your background check. The amount of dirty pool these guys do, they add extra questions. They add, and again, this is all against the law. They only can do X. They can only do these 10 things. They can't do an 11th thing. They have places doing the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th thing. They have people give you tests. They have people make sure they schedule it like a 3-hour window once a month that you have to come in and give them the paperwork.
Like a Tuesday at 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. type of thing.
Exactly. Or this one. You'd have it back, but the chief is on vacation. Oh, the detective's in court today. And it just is excuse after excuse. Oh, your references didn't send it back to us. And it's ridiculous. And again, they have 30 days. Cities like Jersey City are proud that they take over a year to process it. So the ANJRPC, which is the New Jersey State NRA chapter, actually started putting together a class action lawsuit against that. I forgot what they call it, Operation something. You can check it out on anjrpc.org. But they had to send letters to over 500 towns, making them aware that they were breaking the law whenever they did any of this stuff. My town personally sent a letter to my supervisor saying, Tony's trying to buy a pistol. Is that okay? That was 100% against the law. But they hold all the balls. And they will do things like that. I took place in a rally. I took part of a recall of a state senator. He was the head of the Senate. There were people afraid to sign and put their name down because they thought they would suffer repercussions. Like, our union told us not to sign this, or else there's going to be problems. The place that we held the rally at to start canceled the day before, and they had to find a new place that wasn't intimidated by this guy. I mean, it's straight mafia kind of stuff happens here for real. It's not a joke.
Now, right now I started out this show talking about, we're at the end of 2018, we're heading into the beginning of 19, and I guess we could look at it lots of different ways. Middle term of a Republican president, and after just experiencing this bump stock thing, we've got the beginning of the year. The SHOT Show industry gets together, and pretty much the entire industry, is as much as possible, is together in one town for the same week, and it's been frustrating for me that we continue to repeat history. We do the same things over and over, and I don't think for any real reason. There's no tradition to it other than nothing has come along to disrupt the process or change it a little bit. And over the years of having discussions with people from states that we always like to call behind enemy lines, especially states like New Jersey, who's just physically smaller than a state like California with 7 million gun owners who are being infringed constantly. It's just it seems frustrating for, I'm sure, the people in those states, shouting out to the rest of the world. But for the gun owners out here in the quote unquote states that aren't under attack, they hear all these pleas. So how do we, decipher some of the noise, and how do we filter out some of the static, and how do we combine some of the shared plies or plights so that we can manage it? I think we've got the potential with the technology out there and with the amount of people that are in the game that we have a way to balance resources, or at least we have the potential to balance resources. We have plenty of people in the states that don't feel they're under attack, who have time, finances, and intent. And then we've got people behind enemy lines who are frustrated and basically have the burden of telling about their plight and trying to effort everything. So what I'm trying to do with my projects here is to figure out if there's a way, if it's possible, for the Second Amendment media to get together and at least be aware of the plights that are out there, get together on a regular basis so that those plights can be not forgotten or not dismissed or not lost in the overall noise that's out there. And there's the noise that happens from so many people talking. So let's talk about SHOT Show a bit. We've talked about you and where you're at and your accomplishments. As far as SHOT Show, have you attended? Do you attend?
No, I haven't attended a SHOT Show, mainly because it's all the way in Vegas. That's why I missed out on NRA this year, because it was in Dallas. I have to drive out. I'm a bigger dude. Stacking my big booty on a plane kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And it's getting there, and then it's all the other expense. And again, I'm paying out of pocket. I mean, I'm not getting that much through any of these things. I try to make sure we have ammo and food and prizes. So me getting from point A to point B is really, again, depends on whatever I get back on tax returns and my overtime.
And I'm guessing you also have to take time off of work, which means you got to use vacation and spend money that you're not making that week.
Exactly. So I try to get comp time instead of getting paid for my overtime. I just do it for the hours. So it all just kind of sucks. I mean, luckily, my wife understands what I'm doing, but the reason I'm doing the money thing too is because it just gets to be a lot.
Stressful.
Right now, I'd convince my wife NRA going to NRA annual meeting was a vacation. She's not buying it. She's like, I don't want to go to Indianapolis.
People go to Indianapolis for vacation for one thing, and it's usually not the NRA show.
Yeah, I have no idea why'd you go to Indianapolis at all. But I'm going for the NRA show. But yeah, I'm trying to get out to Vegas because I think it's important that my message gets to the industry, and you have a lot of heads of companies that are actually at SHOT Show. A lot of the heads don't come to NRA, and they definitely don't go to the Great American Outdoor Show in Harrisburg, PA. So, I mean, that's what I'm trying to do. As far as getting everybody like one big media, that would help. But once people start competing for the money, it's going to
Oh
be
yeah,
weird.
yeah, definitely.
And the reason I formed friendships is because I'm not competing for that money. I'm just trying to put on an event. Um, I'm stepping out. I've stepped down to. I've gone out and done Central Jersey. I've done North Jersey. I'm setting up something to do Southern New Jersey. I have somebody in PA around the Lancaster area that we're trying to get something going. While I was out at the Great American Outdoor Show in Harrisburg, I talked to a guy with a range out there. The bad part is I have to schedule it all. I have to advertise it, and then I have to get there and hope there are enough butts and seats to actually pay for the gas money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, and it's kind of scary because again, you need consistency. So how many times do I go to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania to host an event if I only get 5 people the first time? Like, when do you schedule the next trip out to Harrisburg and hope you have 10 people? It's just, it becomes like hosting a party, but I think it's really important what we're doing. So some sacrifice is cool. It just has to happen. But sometimes it can get a little nerve wracking when you're just wondering, will you have enough money to pay to do it again? Will you have enough money for the next event? So that's why I ask for stuff with Patreon. That's why I ask for stuff with GoFundMe. It's not to be, yeah. If I'm trying to get rich, I'm really, really going about it the wrong way.
Well, do you have other people on the team then? Sounds like you're doing most of it yourself. Is there other people that help out?
I have friends that step up during events. I have friends that do things like New Jersey Concealment Furniture. He has donated stuff. He's donated really cool Aztec calendar, like big hunks of wood here that are shaped like the Aztec calendar with all the companies on it that are firearms related, and our logo in the middle, and it's kind of cool. So that's on Patreon. If you're, over X number of dollars, we're going to do a drawing and someone's going to win that. So I have people like that that are willing to help. I have guys that volunteer at the events. But as far as a crew setting things up or making phone calls for me, no. But I have people that will contact me if they know someone who wants to donate some ammunition, or a company that wants to donate tactical bags or just anything. Like right now, I'm looking for maybe even a coffee company, or, because everybody that comes to my event is not a gun person.
Right.
So having gun stuff is not necessary. If you have a water company, a soda company, energy drink, T-shirts, anything, we can put it in a prize bag. We can talk about you. I can talk about it on the podcast that I have, a sponsor from this company. It doesn't necessarily have to be gun stuff. And I think that's one of the problems, even the Second Amendment community and as advocates, we go to gun stuff. We don't go to car shows. You know what I mean? We don't go to art shows. We don't go to flea markets. We just go to stuff where we have our own audience. It's like we don't cross over. We stay insular. And I think that's what I was trying to say, but it's like
That's a
inbred.
It's a good point, and I don't know. I think it's like to some extent, especially I can imagine in like New Jersey and other states where, like you say, there might be consequences if you wore a gun shirt or if you wore your Ruger shirt to a flea market or something, or to like a softball game.
See,
People
I
think
was
that
going to
like
go
I got
to
to keep this hobby secret. Like this is my hobby that I can play with on the line with my friends, but I don't talk to my work friends about this.
Exactly. I was going to go to Gay Pride this year in Asbury Park, New Jersey, but it got rained out. Like it was really, really cold, 20, 30 miles an hour rain. No one was there. Um, but I was nervous because, again, I'm solo. Someone was willing to share a tent, a setup with me, a table, and I was just going to sit there. I didn't have anything set up, but I was just going to try to talk to people. I have to come up with a better strategy, but yes, I'm going to go there just to reach out to that community and let them know this is their Second Amendment right too. And as long as everyone's polite, cool, because I'm not going to fight someone over anything. I'll walk away. Again, I'm 48 years old. I'm too old to fight.
And that's not really our goal, right? We're trying to allow people an experience, but we're not forcing it on them, and
No,
we're just trying to offer.
never.
We're not trying to push.
It's about education, and if someone doesn't want it, they don't have to get it. I'm not saying anybody doesn't do this, or who's against the Second Amendment is anti-American, or you're a horrible human being. I'm not here to call anyone names. I'm here to grow the community, not not be a jerk.
So, gun rights policy conference. Have you had an opportunity to go to any of those or watch those?
I've watched them. Yeah, I've watched them since the first one because again, Paul Lathrop would actually do the live feed. And I'd be there watching them, and it was awesome. I saw Kevin's thing. I saw Maj's thing, Maj Toure from Black Guns Matter. These guys are actually friends of mine. Kevin's been on my show. We were supposed to do a 15-minute segment with him. An hour and a half later, we were still going. And it was funny because, again, my show is done through the Anchor app. So it's pretty much through the telephone. You tell me what time you get off work and it's conducive to you, and I'll call you. And
is that how that Anchor works? We have a guy on one channel who uses Anchor for his podcast, and I haven't experienced it. I had downloaded it once, but I at first it was like 15 minutes only, and that's when I passed it. But I guess they've opened it to longer than 15 minutes. But you
it can be longer.
You open it on your phone though as an app, and then when you call somebody on a regular phone call, they're in the podcast with you.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
It's awesome. Yeah, you shoot them a text, and it has the link, and they just call it. And I tell him, what time do you get off work? He told me. So he called me midnight, St. Louis time. So it was 1:30 in the morning or 2 in the morning here in Jersey. And yeah, we did it. We did the show for an hour and a half plus the regular show. And yeah, we had to do it in 15-minute intervals because Anchor is kind of wonky. It might kick you off. It might not.
Oh, okay.
After 15 minutes. So we just broke it down, and I fit our commercial in between some of them or something like that. But yeah, I got off the phone with him. It was like 4 in the morning when we finished up. I posted the show and I went to work. So yeah, I got no sleep at all. 24 hours right back to work. But I thought it was important, and it's one of our most downloaded shows because Kevin Dixie and what he does is very important with Aiming for the Truth. And it was just great having somebody on like him that you can hear the passion in his voice for what he does. And that's what we need as gun people. We need to kind of wake up. When Trump became president, a lot of firearms people just sat on their butt and went, "We won." And I'm like, no. We didn't win until they get rid of the NFA. You know what I mean? It's like we need to push back, and we're not good at playing offense. We're good at defense, but we're not good at offense. And that's pretty much what I spend time on my show. We have a 15-minute segment on legislation, and I was just trying to get people to go out and vote in their primaries this year. And every week I would give the primary dates for different states, the upcoming primaries, and tell people to get out, find out who their pro-gun people are. And people would ask me, well, who's the pro-gun candidate in Missouri? I'm like, I don't know. Look it up. Like, I'm in Jersey, and I have a fight on my hands because I can't find a pro-gun anybody on a ticket. And it's like you have to participate in the political process. And I hate it. I do not like politics. Politics suck. But we have to take part of that because that's the only way we can win this. That's the only way we can keep the civil right alive is actually by legislation, by writing actual letters, not just emails, by calling, by going to rallies, by donating to Second Amendment groups that are in your area. And if your state is safe, find a state like Jersey, the ANJRPC, Association of Rifle and Pistol Clubs in New Jersey. They're suing right now for our 10-round magazine ban. They're taking that to the Third Circuit en banc. That means every member of the Third Circuit will be hearing this case. Hopefully we win and get that crap reversed. But yes, we need money. CNJFO in New Jersey, again, they've matched the funding to help pay for that lawsuit. They need the money.
And ideally, when those kind of cases go to the circuit, and they get ruled on, ideally they get ruled on in our favor and it ends there. But if it doesn't, then it goes up to the Supreme, and that's where we have decisions that last. And people like to see the end result of like Heller and stuff, but the nitty gritty, the boring beginnings of all that cost money, and it's like a pyramid. You start with a whole bunch of lawsuits that all take money and effort, and then as they dwindle down, they get to they get removed and different things happen, and you end up with all that potential. You get one or two that actually have some relevance. And
exactly. And it takes money, and just sending, just, hey, I renewed my NRA membership. That does not, I mean, great, but that doesn't add to the political, excuse me, that doesn't add to lawsuits. That doesn't pay for lawyers. You know what I mean? And again, it's the local guys. It's the local guys that are making this stuff happen. It's your local groups. So yeah, if you live in a safe state as you consider it, donate to somebody in Jersey. We need it. Those two groups especially, because again, they're fighting in court, and it's expensive. If you ever heard how much lawyers charge, it costs money.
Well, they say what, $15 an hour just to be in court. So then
Yeah.
I'd talk about the getting somebody there, and if they're out of state, putting them up, and then they'll do the same kind of stuff you're talking about. Oh, court's canceled today. We're going to start up, Christmas Eve morning or something. So people have to
Oh,
go home.
let me tell you, they had it in Philly. They had the Third Circuit. We went through it already with the three judges. One judge was appointed by Obama, one by Clinton, and one by Trump. Our guys went there to testify. I mean, for the court case. They called them and said, hey, none of it got recorded. We're going to have to do it again. None of it got recorded on the tape. So you have to come back and do it all over again. That's how ridiculous what happens here is. Have you ever heard about that happening in what is it? Not Supreme Court. Have you ever heard of that happening in any court, that you had to a mulligan because they didn't record it? That's not free. That just happened, and then of course we lost. So we're going back again. Oh, circuit court, that was it. Now we're going back again and doing it all over. It's ridiculous, but it takes money. You guys really have to. We need help. We need help from gun owners. Jersey has 1.3 million firearms ID cards out there, so everybody gets one. There might be a few people out of state that have one, but that's how many gun owners we can pretty much count on. It's in Jersey.
And what's the population of New Jersey?
I think it's 9 million, 8 million, something like that.
And like you say, we got to assume there's a couple of people out there that aren't going to go through with the thing, but are still going to vote for us. But it's not going to be a huge percentage. It's not going to be millions.
No.
And the thing is,
I've never really asked myself, how many people are in New Jersey?
There's something to that, though, too. And I think a lot of people say, well, I don't live in New Jersey. What do I care? But, with 1 million gun owners, what are they expected to be able to do against whatever the majority of non-gun owners? And when you've got politicians that, for whatever reasons, are looking towards states that are also anti-gun, they've got all kinds of external influences. And we look at it and go, oh, what do we get? Well, the same external influences that affect it on the other side can affect it this way. So, again, I got to assume that with the potential we've got, the resource we have out here with all the gun owners, and most of the time we're not fighting, most of the time we're sitting around. If we were aware of an issue or something pending in a state like New Jersey or Oregon or Washington, Florida, any state really is going to have influence financially from businesses. So there's been some, big headlines when a company might say we're not going to supply things to the law enforcement in a state based on their laws. Well, that's something that everybody can be aware of. But you can do the same thing if you're a paper supply house, and you can make a decision to where you're going to do business, and you can let the legislatures in that state know. I do X amount of millions of dollars in that state, and I'm now deciding whether or not I want to do business in a state that doesn't understand our rights. Or if you're going to be vacationing and, hey, I'm gonna, I'm responsible for taking our company picnic to a state, and I'm going to go to Pennsylvania, not New Jersey, and here's why. And that kind of influence tells those political strategists, hey, if we even talk about anti-gun stuff, ideally, when we even talk about anti-gun stuff, we're going to get such a overwhelming, organized show of opposition to this, that let's go after swimming pools, or let's go after railings on stairs, or something that doesn't have a constitutionally protected right behind it. And fickle. I mean, the system can seem frustrating, but at the same time, we've got advantages there. It is a fickle system, and they're looking for the path of least resistance. We give them a dependable, predictable response. And if we start being an overwhelmingly consequential response, in other words, they're going to be out of office, or they're going to have a lot of gruff every time they push something. They're not stupid. They're going to go push on other things. They're not going to push these buttons when they get responses that they don't expect. Yeah. And it wouldn't take a lot of effect or a lot of effort for us to create that. And I suspect once we as a community figure out how to organize our resources and influence like that, then it's going to be a whole nother game, because now we're going to start thinking, what states can we push our pro-gun stuff on instead of just defending states like New Jersey for your abuses, right?
80 million voter voting block would scare the bejesus out of any politician ever.
Yeah.
And in New Jersey, we have last election that elected really anti-gun Governor Murphy, who said he was going to sign any anti-gun bill that came across his desk. Only 30% of the population and registered voters voted. Only 30% of the registered voters voted. That's ridiculous. If you don't participate, this is what happens. Again, 1 million gun owners in the state. You know how we could have swayed that election? I mean, it's ridiculous. And we have the power, but we won't get together because everybody looks at it as, well, so what? I don't shoot my gun much anyway. It's not a thing. I'm more worried about property tax. I'm more worried about this. And I'm like, do you understand? They take that civil right away. They can do anything they want to you once you're disarmed. And whenever you talk about it, whenever we talk about it as gun people, we usually bring up something like World War II and Hitler. And I'm like, dude, it's happening today in countries like Venezuela. You know what I mean? It's happening today. It's not what people consider ancient history because the film is in black and white. I'm like, it's happening today. You don't hear about it. People are being victimized by their government. People are being victimized by groups like Boko Haram in Africa, that they just come and take every woman off a college campus and leave with them. And your hashtag bring our girls back really didn't help. Imagine that. Boko Haram doesn't care how many hits their Instagram page gets. But
or how they're trending.
Or how they're trending. The Second Amendment is there for a reason. And a lot of people, including people that should know better, just look at it as some antiquated colonialism or something. And I'm like, no, it's your ability to protect yourself. Why are you giving this away? And why are you listening to professional politicians that when we do, when they talk about, do you trust your local politician? Everyone says no. They have like a 98% disapproval rating. But this is the person you're going to trust with your civil right? And whether you have it? That's ridiculous. We have to fight as gun owners. We can't sit on our butts. And the guys who say I hate the NRA and I'm not going to donate to the NRA, I'm not here to convince you any other way, but donate to a local state Second Amendment organization.
You can have your beef with the ability now to. It's not like in the days when I can remember writing a piece of paper check, and signing it, putting it in an envelope with a stamp, and then waiting for newsletters to tell me the results of what that group was doing last month or 2 weeks ago. We have immediate awareness of what the organizations are doing, and you can vote with your wallet and your attention and your and all the different tools we have online. If an organization, well, just like you mentioned with the NRA, there's obviously dissent now with their actions. That's not being done in a vacuum. They're 100% aware of what's being done in the commotion that their actions are causing. And anybody who thinks that they're not going to change course based on that, I think is not looking at history. Any organization that is looking at a reaction from their member base based on an action is going to take that into account the next time they go to make an action. So
also, as far as the NRA is concerned, and yes, I was a member of NRA. I'm an NRA instructor, certified instructor. I'm an NRA recruiter. If you're not a member, they probably don't care what you have to say. I mean, I'll just go ahead and say that. Being a member, you may be able to change that. If you don't want to put your money towards that, fine. I mean, I'm not going to say you're wrong, because I get frustrated by the NRA too, because I feel they're disingenuous about who they're welcoming. It's as if they won't let the whole FUD thing go. Like they think all of a sudden every hunter is going to turn their back on the NRA if the NRA welcomes people of color. If the NRA comes out and said, "Hey, that was messed up, that police shooting," you know what I mean? And I understand they don't have to come out the second it happens because that's ridiculous. But later on, when you see what it is, they could say something. Not that they have to, but they could because it really looks bad. Because as a minority, that is, NRA recruiter, NRA, blah, blah, blah. I get that question all the time. Why didn't the NRA say anything about Colando or, geez, I can't even think of the guy's name now.
The CCW guy, though.
Yeah, in Minnesota. Why didn't he say anything about that? And I'm like, well, what's in it for the NRA to say something? Do they alienate their law enforcement followers? Do they alienate the people that, the thin blue line people that have that little sticker on the back of their car? And for what? I'm like, because the people that are asking me are already vehemently anti-gun. So do you think that's going to get those people to cross over and go, you know what? I hated guns before and I didn't think civilians should own it. But now that the NRA came out for Trayvon Martin, I'm going to join? No, it's not going to happen. So that's why they don't do it, because it's not worth the risk of losing that money. But I think that's a mistake, because if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And they're alienating people. I can see through that. I can see the NRA will say one thing but do another. The NRA ILA comes to my events. The NRA grassroots, again, NRA ILA helps me out. They donate stuff. But big NRA, I haven't received a word. I just get the same annoying phone calls you do.
I think
any support.
There's this conversation or whatever, the perception of what the NRA should or shouldn't do has always been a thing. They're our biggest group, and since they are the front of all the antis, or the people that have no interest in guns, they just dismiss gun owners as inconsequential pawns of the industry, which is funding the NRA, and they see it as a whole different thing than we do. But in any case, it's our largest ally or tool in the toolbox. Yeah. I think of it like our battleship, not our battleship, our aircraft carrier, and it's got things like the education and the ILA, which can, airplanes can get off an aircraft carrier and go do things. But an aircraft carrier, you don't expect it to keep turning left and right and trying to address everything. You throw it into a theater of operations, and it's the behemoth, and you point it towards something when there's an actual situation. But you depend on your assault craft and your people with boots on the ground, and you depend on your Air Force and your Marines and your Coast Guard to do all the day-to-day work. The aircraft carrier is there to support, but it's not our only tool, and expecting so much out of it is just like a bunch of people looking at the aircraft carrier and giving it the responsibility of the war. We've got a lot of battles.
I like that. I like that, actually. I've never thought of it that way, but yeah, you're right.
And the thing is, we've got, again, so much access to all the different, whatever, if we're calling it Navy, the different attack craft or the different things. We've got national level, we got areas of interest, we got groups that petition for local, and then different segments of the population even. And again, we're all using social medias. The audiences overlap, so we have the potential here to coordinate and really make some effort. One of the things I think we just have to get past is some of the expectations and traditions of the past. And with the way that things change technologically and culturally, I don't think that's a big ask, to get people to be more aware of the potential of what we got, instead of always requiring that we do things the way we always have. And that's what this is, an effort, and all this conversation is hopefully, well, I know it's moving us towards being more efficient and more flexible and more useful as every level, individuals, local, and large groups.
I think we using social media, using Hangouts, using all of this, we can reach people on a level we've never been able to do before. We can actually ask questions of each other directly. We can do things together, but we actually have to do it because it's a small percentage of the people that are here. But it's like we all have to be willing to advocate. And it kind of sucks in a state like New Jersey where you could lose your job over some of this. I mean, it'll be sneaky, it'll be backstabby, but yeah, you could lose your job over some of this stuff. So there's a real risk involved in this state, and I'm sure others too. But I'm just saying what I see. I mean, I have to ask permission to take pictures and see if I can put them up when we host an event, because the last thing I want is someone to lose their job because they came in support of the Second Amendment. I mean, it's real. What can I say? I'm sorry that you lost your job because I posted the picture on Instagram. No,
that's true, and that's something that, I mean, I've never thought about it like that, but that's the kind of catch-22 you've got. You want to talk about how successful the event was, but you know that can have consequences.
And it's also a little annoying because, again, after 3 years after doing this, you become friends with people. And people are so caught up in the image, like, well, how many black people were there? How many Asian people were there? How many gay people were there? And I'm like, I'm friends with these guys now, right? It's not like I have a black friend head count that I do. Like, oh, hey, there's a black, an Asian, a Jew, and a gay guy. Cool. Let me take that picture.
Yeah.
It's just guys and girls at the range shooting. And sometimes you don't even notice. But I did notice, like, the lady with the hijab, she was there. She was brought in by a guy who was a Second Amendment advocate that's a Muslim kid. And he had Muslim friends at the college he was going to that were interested in firearms, but he was nervous about putting it together. But he shows up with like 8 people deep to the event. And now I have to explain to my firearms instructors how to deal with a Muslim woman. Like, you cannot touch her. You don't touch this lady. You can instruct her. Don't use curse words around her. It's a cultural thing. But again, they have to meet us more than halfway too, because until a couple of years ago, I've never given firearms instruction to a Muslim woman.
Can you imagine being a U.S.-born Muslim and the whatever discrimination, whatever the perception, if they wanted to get into the Second Amendment?
That's why you don't shut them down. That's why you look when you see those guys walk in the door, especially. Yeah, you're looking at it like the same way when I went to my first cowboy action shooting match. I was geeked up about it. I was like, dude, the cool guns, the Old West. I can't wait. I made a phone call, a cold call to the group, and I got the president of New Jersey's group, Hold the Wall Gang. And I'm like, hey, my name is Tony Simon. I'd like to come out and check out your shoot this Sunday. He was like, yeah, come on down. It was Sunday. It was that day. I'm like, yeah, I'm driving. Where is it? He told me where. I'm halfway there driving on back roads and went, wait a minute. I'm about to go hang out with a bunch of white people that thought the glory days of America were the cowboy times. I'm like, no one knows where I'm going. I'm in the middle of nowhere. The 1800s wasn't a great time to be a black dude in America. What kind of people am I going to run into? I ran into some of the coolest people you've ever met. And they were just glad to have me out there and shoot guns. But that popped up in my head, and I was totally geeked up about it. And I'd been to ranges before, but then I just realized I'm going to something totally new. And it wasn't. It was still more gun people, and they were decent people. And I got there and got out of my vehicle, and the president of the organization picked me up on his golf cart and drove me around and introduced me to everyone like I was this long lost cousin. And people were great, but you have to be willing to take that step. So yeah, when I see Muslims come into the range, when I see a gay person come into the range to one of my events, and how do you know someone is gay? Well, one lady had a rainbow shirt on with a unicorn saying she was gay. That's how I knew. It's called a clue. But when you see those people come into something that traditionally they would think these people would hate them, you have to welcome them with open arms and go, thank you for coming. Now let's have fun. And that's the end of my singling those people out. But it's annoying after the event is over going, I have to promote the event again. Let me go through my pictures and see what will be eye-catching, you know what I mean, and display what the group is about. But really, it's that there's not a difference in between us. That's what the group is about. But to take a, you know what I mean, to have to put it in a photo is a little annoying and seems kind of disingenuous, but you have to do it because sometimes image is everything, like Sprite says.
It kind of is, though, and that's the thing, is that I'm glad you're putting that effort, even though it can be awkward or uncomfortable or seemingly unnecessary, because it adds to the collective content that's out there. And I mean, it's beneficial in so many ways.
Yeah, it is, but it's annoying.
Yeah, I can imagine. And that's one of those things. It's like there's so many challenges, so many things that we need to, that would be so much easier if we just did an effort, right? There's actually no resistance to doing nothing. So much easier.
Yeah, and guys out there who go, well, I can't do anything, bro. Just donating money, just sharing. Like if you come to Simon Says Train on Facebook, or The Second Is for Everyone on Facebook, just sharing a post is doing something. Well, I don't know anybody from Jersey. Makes no difference. Just share the post, bro.
Yeah, I'm going to take a second, since this is a two-way workshop, right? I'm going to reiterate this, that your point there is critical. There's people that aren't interested or are not able to get to places or to do the things that some people are doing. There's people that don't have the time or the technical whatever to do that kind of stuff. But if you're watching this, no matter where it is, if you're watching this on a video platform, an audio platform, or something else, your influence as a viewer is potential. And if you simply view, you're definitely part of the machine. You're part of the, one of the cogs in the machine, and you're counting as a view. However, if you understand that when you participate in whatever the platform is that you might be encountering any kind of two-way content, this or on Simon's podcast or a YouTube video or a blog post or a Facebook entry, when you participate and you share, that's taking that and giving it another notch on its reputation thing, its credibility. And the engines, the logarithms that run the internet, the wires and tubes and stuff on the other side that we don't see, they're tasked with putting out relevant information to others when they seek it. So if you don't know who might be seeking 2A, Second Amendment, guns in New Jersey, whatever set of keywords they might be searching for, when the guts or the brains or the robots of the internet are tasked with showing them results, they use the indications like shares and like the likes or the thumbs up or the hearts or whatever insignificant little childish thing that are on these videos. They use those as indications that this is something that's a valid result for this inquiry. And you as an individual who might not have the resources to financially support as many people as you'd like, if you're watching anything, you have power. And that's something that's democratized now to a level that we've never seen in time. Like you can buy a newspaper back in the day. You could be a Nielsen rating and watch a television show. I guess you could talk about a television show, but that's about as much interaction as you had back in, historically up until just recently. Now that's turned on its ear, and you could simply take the amount of time it takes you to consume the content that you're creating and take the minuscule amount of effort and time it takes to do what we're suggesting. Share is the biggest thing, no matter what the platform is. If you pick up that link and share it somewhere, you're creating reciprocal links, and that's the biggest thing the internet uses to determine the validity of the content you're looking at. It uses the sum of all those points to determine the trend or the percentage of awareness that the culture or the community or the group or the population that they're looking at, what interest they have in this. So if we do nothing but watch content and walk away, we've indicated almost the opposite that we'd like. We've indicated that it's something that we've watched and we've walked away from. It was not worth our effort. When you put that effort in, and ideally, if enough people, the millions of people that watch the online stuff that's going on every day, if those people interacted, immediately the creators, the people that run those engines, are going to realize that this is something that's significant. And we're going to see changes in the value of our presence on these platforms. So we can continue to complain that the platforms don't just give us what we want, or they haven't been created for us, but realize that by doing nothing, you're effectively enforcing what they're doing. You can change that. You have influence like we've never had before. So that remark about sharing is, I think, crucial. And as a person who might be watching this or consuming any 2A content, and you don't have the financial resources, none of us do, to support everything that's valuable or valid, you have the ability to influence its rank on the internet. Additionally, I can tell you from someone who creates content, when you participate with the thumbs and with the likes and by leaving a comment, by sharing it, you're letting the human being on the other end of that internet know that there's another human being out there, and that can keep us going. We don't want to keep talking about money because it's annoying, but that's not the motivation for many of the people out there. It's the knowing that we're reaching other people and that potentially we're all, putting our part into changing the world. And that can only be done with interaction. So by commenting and sharing, you're helping that person to keep going with whatever their project is.
Yeah, because I tell you right now, man, we lost this magazine ban. I started out, I spoke at 2 rallies this year. I spoke in front of both the Assembly and the Senate. I hosted an event. I was at something 2A related twice a month this year, pretty much. And we still lost the magazine ban. And you post every day and getting feedback from people, getting questions and stuff like this in the comment section of this video lets me know people are paying attention, lets me know people are out there. When I find out people are listening to the show, when I get feedback, iTunes reviews, that lets me know people are paying attention and are out there willing to help. The donations help. It's not like I'm not talking into a void, and we didn't just post a bunch of losses. Words getting out there, and it helps. I'm still a dude. I mean, it takes a little bit of ego to do some of this, and yeah, positive feedback is needed. I'm not gonna lie. It does make me feel good when somebody go, "Hey, I listened to your podcast," or you motivated me to actually get out of the house and do this. And as far as financially, dude, you don't have to be a member of a lot of these groups to at least get the newsletters and be aware of what's happening in your area. Or if you want to find out what's going on in Jersey, again, anjrpc.org. You can get their newsletter for free. They'll email it to you, and you can find out what's happening in this crazy state. You don't have to spend money, but again, you can share posts. You can do stuff if you can. I'm on LinkedIn. I have some post that has like 4,000 or 5,000 people that saw the post, but I only have like 7 comments and 25 likes because these people are checking out what I do, but they won't give me feedback at all, even a like. But I know over 4,000 people saw it. So
no, a political strategist comes along and is tasked from whatever entity that they're involved with. Go determine what our next campaign is going to be, and they do some research or whatever their task is, and they encounter a video like that, many views, but very little interaction. Who knows how they're going to interpret that? Potentially, they're going to interpret that as this is something that this is a sore that we can poke. We know that there's utility here, but there's very little motivation. No real action is going to come of this. This is something we can poke. Now, if they go to that same video and see 3,000 views, hundreds and hundreds of comments, that's a different situation. And they know that if they poke their finger into that, it's going to get all sticky, and they're going to not be able to just walk away from it. They're going to get involved in it. And that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for the easy, bullet points that they can get people to rally behind. And that's how we affect that change. And it's a simple way. And I try to let people know about, cost-free ways of being part of this all.
Yeah. As a guy who has to watch every dime I spend, and really it got that way. I was actually talking to Reverend Ken Blanchard because he's been doing this Second Amendment advocacy since the 90s.
Yep.
And he told me to be careful. He said he almost went into bankruptcy just trying to be a Second Amendment advocate. So yes, I have to keep an eye on the bottom line of how much this costs me. So yeah, I'm aware of inexpensive ways to get information out and take information in. And the internet is one way to do it. Me being on shows, this is the 5th show I've been on since Friday. What's today? Saturday? Since Thursday night. So, I mean, I'm getting word out to as many people as I can in the community about what we do here. And if it helps a second is for everyone, awesome. But if it helps Second Amendment groups in your state to make you aware of them or make you go look for them, even better. Dude, the fight has to start somewhere. You have to participate. This Everyone sees their life as a movie, I'm sure, and you're the hero of your own movie. Well, you want to be effective. This is one way to be very effective. This is a civil right. This is a fight, and you can be part of it. And it's an important fight that's going to go on for generations if we can get it past this generation. Because they're trying to kill it from both ends, especially in a state like Jersey. They make it difficult. They want to do these crazy background checks, which really means you have an FFL has to stand between you and your kid when you pass the 22 to them. That's what these, what is it, universal background checks really are.
Yep.
The pistol purchase permit thing or the firearms ID card thing in Jersey, just another hurdle. Not allowing people, under the age of 21 to purchase a firearm. All of those things are just ways to kill the Second Amendment, to make it inconvenient, to throw obstacles up in front of you that you go, you know what, I won't even bother. That's all it is a continual strategy to kill the second. And we have to fight it on every front. And the way you fight it, yes, is donations. But again, you can do it for free by getting information, by spreading information, by sharing posts that are positive, not bullcrap posts and not sharing memes. I'm sorry, memes aren't helping. Information helps. Getting stories out, finding out what group is doing what, all of that helps. I'm not saying don't have fun with it, but I'm going, look, share stuff that means something too.
We'll disagree on memes a little bit, but I would agree with you on that.
Well, because they've reached a specific audience that, I'm sorry to say, old white guys who do the stuff that we do, besides us, of course, me and you, Tony. Those memes actually reach out an audience that some people can't.
All right, I'll take it.
They can be effective, but I agree. They're not alone. They're not.
No, they're not going to do much.
That's what I meant. I mean, because I love a good meme too, and sometimes it does make a point and cut through the BS.
Exactly.
But if all you're ever doing is sharing a meme, it's like, bro, give somebody some information too. I mean, you know, your homepage shouldn't look like, you know, a cracked magazine from back in the day.
Wow.
So I'm going to take a second and play host a little bit. I don't know how much time Tony has, but you're welcome. Stick with us. I'll run these shows, these workshops, as long as there's people in the conversation. But I want to take a second just to introduce everybody. I had some other people jump in. So Adam jumped in. Where are you at?
I'm in Texas.
Texas, that's right. And then Gary's still here from Kansas, and Roosted jumped in from Minnesota. Tony's here from New Jersey, and we've got Artisan Tony out in the YouTube chat. I don't know if you guys have ever met your two Tonys, but it's causing some confusion. So Artisan Tony is from Chattanooga. He's a YouTuber. Does he has people sign the cricket stocks every year. He's done all kinds of stuff with his YouTube channel. Tony from New Jersey is the instructor and does the 2A workshops. And you go by SimonSaysTrain for the most part online, or the diversityissue.com. So
I've been following Artisan Tony for years.
Oh, right on. Good. So he's got an invite. I guess he said his wife's making him do some stuff, so he'll jump in if he has a chance. But I do want to keep this a conversation. So we've had lots of people commenting on the YouTube side and on our gun channel side. So for those of you that don't know, Gun Channels is a community that we built 5 years ago after the initial resistance to the 23 potential executive actions that Obama suggested in January of 2012. There was an overwhelming grassroots resistance to that from our community, and the involvement online and everything was inspirational. Towards the end of 2013, we saw the apathy start to set in, and that drive to resist did not result in an effort towards pushing the other way and challenging the 4473s or the 1986 Hughes Amendment to the Gun Owners Protection Act or the NFA, all things that should be questioned and we should be efforting towards. So when we saw that wasn't happening, there was some issues with YouTube trying to shove everybody over to Google Plus to compete with Facebook, and instead of mobilizing our audiences to go to a platform that was going to be ultimately questionable on their interest in our rights and our property, we just decided as web people to just build a platform. So we built a place called Gun Channels, and it's free to use. It's a bunch of tools and resources, but mainly it's a community. It's a bunch of people that get together and we talk about guns pretty much daily. So we've got a text chat over there, and people have been interactive with this conversation, as well as on the YouTube text chat. So I'm going to go back, and there's been specific questions for Tony, and I'm going to try to catch most of those. If I miss some, feel free to retype them. But first off, somebody was asking about, do you know about 717 Armory in Harrisburg?
Yep. That's actually who I was talking to. So hopefully we can get together in 2019 and do something up there. Met him at the Great American Outdoor Show. He gave me some positive vibes. Hopefully it's followed with some follow through.
Awesome. Yeah, it says it's a new range, so that's awesome that they're hitting the ground running instead of doing the same old or something. Then speaking of civil rights, where's the ACLU? And they're all for rights except the second. Can we ask Tony? I guess they're asking me to ask you if you've got any point of view on the ACLU. I don't know if that's ever come up before.
No, I mean, I've heard people bring it up that the ACLU is only cares about, First Amendment rights, or they don't care about Second Amendment rights. I kind of sort of have to agree with, it seems to be their history. But whatever. I mean, what am I supposed to do about that? I can't get the NRA to do what I want. How am I going to get the ACLU to do what I want?
Yeah, seriously, I think, again, it's just if we as a community realize that when we do things and we make it known that we're doing them, their political strategists are going to do the same. And if they see that there's enough money involved or people involved, they'll probably take it on and champion it as an issue. Right now, they'd figure, like you were saying, they'd make some decision that it's going to alienate too many of their existing members or something.
So I just I just looked up their position on Google, because Google Foo is a thing, right? It's pretty much they're saying that it is the Second Amendment is for a collective right rather than the individual right. That's the ACLU's stand on it.
Yeah.
So that's fun. Now I have another question. Since you're from New Jersey, do you know Adam Kalita?
Yeah,
James Kalita.
James Kalita, yeah. I was on like his third show.
Awesome.
Yeah. James and I know each other well.
My favorite podcast of all podcasts at this point. He's doing awesome work. So he started with similar frustration with New Jersey, and then I don't know, maybe you can tell his story better than I can, but I've run this workshop for a few weeks now on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and when no one joins in, like on Tuesday, no one's going to join in really during the afternoon unless you're not working. So I'll end up I got permission from James and from Charlie, who we'll talk about in a second, to play their podcast. And I also do Cheryl's Gun Freedom Radio. And out of all the podcasts that I listen to, they're all awesome, but James is seriously my favorite podcast. So you give people like a little bio of James.
Actually, I don't know James. James and I met 2015 at New Jersey Second Amendment Society meeting. And James was James. He's vocal. He was actually removed from, I think, speaking in the assembly. Like, they have state troopers came and asked him to leave. Because he's vocal. I mean, he means what he means. He's more diehard than I am. But nice dude. But yeah, he really believes in this just like I do. And he's just going to fight till his last breath. And he started the podcast up. Out of Order podcast is what it's called, if you guys don't know. And he was like, I'm going to just interview people and talk to anybody everywhere. And he's done what he does, like 2-3 a week, maybe more.
And it's awesome because, like, this is like, he'll say, like, this is Tony from SimonSaysTrain. Tell us your story. And then he just lets you go for half an hour.
Yeah. You mean he doesn't get in the way of the interview. That's for darn sure.
No.
But yeah, real good guy, solid guy, really behind the Second Amendment in a state. What people don't understand about a state like New Jersey is this. if you're pro-gun here, if you're vocally pro-gun, you're a fanatic about it compared to some people in other states who, just own a gun. Here in Jersey, you pretty much have to fight to own a gun. You have to pay fees. You have to put up with bull crap from your local PD. You have to put up or shut up or be silent at work or just be the vocal guy at work and take the lumps where you can. I mean, I do. But I'm ready for that argument from anybody who's willing to give it to me at work. But again, we'll have a discussion. You know what I mean? Maybe it's because I'm a person of color. Maybe it's because I'm 6'2", 500 pounds. I don't know, but people don't come at me real hard or rude on my job. But we can have a discussion, and I welcome it. You know what I mean? Because I don't know if you know, that's one of my little names I call myself, pound for pound, the largest firearms instructor in America. So I put that out there, but I'm willing to have a conversation with anybody. James is a hardcore dude, but people come at him rudely a lot. And he's not afraid to stir up controversy. We actually were speaking together. We were on a dais together at the New Jersey Second Amendment Firearms Educational Conference earlier this year. And he said he looks forward to comments. He looks forward to fights on the internet and name calling and all of that, because it keeps him at the top of the queue when people do that. So anyway, James is a good guy. Follow his show, listen to his show. He really believes in what he's doing. And that's what I'm finding out. And this is kind of inside baseball. Some Second Amendment groups are just about promoting themselves. And that kind of sucks, because we have, I feel, a way more important mission. And that's fighting for our Second Amendment rights and not stroking your ego for your group or whatever, or trying to make you rich. Dude, we have a fight on our hands.
We live in a time when it's becoming more and more evident. It's really tough for those organizations, and there's few of them, but I know a couple that you're talking about that, that it's more evident when you can see the lack of product, right? Lack of results.
Yeah, lack of movement from a lot of them, or it's only them in front of the camera. I'm like, dude, this is way more important than your ego. And I know I'm maybe being naive about it, because where there's money, they're going to be jerk-offs. But it's a little frustrating when, I'm looking through, trying to decide which batch of 9mm ammo is the cheapest by $10 because I got something else to do with that $10. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, exactly. And again, that's where the conversation is vital. I think these conversations, a lot of people dismiss them as preaching to the choir or something like, ineffective. But that's where it's like going to the gun shop or the gun show and hanging out with your friends and chatting about what's going on. And that's how we determine who's efforting, who's getting results, and who's just showboating.
Oh, yeah, we really do. Those conversations had post-diversity shoot around the table, or the ones that I actually had in the room at diversity shoots when half the people were out on the range, and we can actually talk to people in the Second Amendment community. I don't know if... Okay, I know in Jersey, it's like a fellowship when we get together because it's so much against us. Again, 1 million gun owners in a state of 9 million people. 1 million gun owners behind enemy lines. 1 million gun owners that get crapped on a daily basis by our very government. So I guess when we get together, we talk more. And you do find out who's full of crap. You do get those names to go with names on Facebook or, screenshots on Facebook. And yeah, that guy's a real jerk, so-and-so. I see what he posts. He's under 3 different names on Facebook. Don't pay any attention to him. He's a troll. That kind of stuff really comes out when you have meetings. It is a fellowship. It is a togetherness with gun owners when we get together. And that's one of the things I want to show even our own community. Sometimes we don't see that if you don't get out. You know what I mean? Especially if you live where I used to live, where to go shooting, I just go back on the property, set up some targets and plink. So you weren't going to the range and you weren't getting this. And that's another reason we set up the Minuteman Challenge as a competition, to get people out together, shooting and doing some fun stuff. You got to grow the community part of it too. It's not just the activism.
Never thought about that, but there's definitely a lot of people who kind of dismiss the stuff as being like, I don't know how to call it, but like you just said, like if you can just walk outside and shoot, and you got no threats, you're not aware of the heat that other people are under, or the pressure that portions of the country can have, because you're just not experiencing it, right? And that's the way to get a chance to experience it.
I got a question for y'all guys. Like, so yeah, we have our own little community. We have people that don't do work, as I would say. They don't put in the work that needs to happen. How do we reach out to other people who are having similar fights as us, like the gaming community or something like that? How would we go about reaching out to them and say, hey, the Second Amendment that's happened, the attacks on the Second Amendment is happening on your First Amendment? Can we get together? Can we link up? Can we have a conversation about this? I haven't personally done it, but have any of y'all, or have any of y'all seen that happening?
I've been all right. Monster Ray contacted me and had me out in Philly for Let's Talk Philly thing, or On the Table Philly, and it was bringing people together from different backgrounds to talk about the Second Amendment. Well, from that, I've met a couple of people, and one guy's doing a thing with rappers, and it's about just music, but he wants to bring different communities together. He's a gun guy, but he's also in that, entertainment community. Mm-hmm. And hopefully he says he's going to launch his stuff in 2019 and ask me to be part of it every now and again. And I'm like, all right, I'll gladly do it, because if I can get to younger dudes and actually talk about the positive side of the Second Amendment for them. And rap music isn't only people of color, because we should know that by now, but it's a young demographic, and let them know, those stuff in video games, you can own one of those. But the government itself is trying to stop you. There are people in the government trying to stop you from owning that. But you can own a scar if you have enough money.
Yeah, and there's people in the government trying to stop you from even seeing it in the video game.
Yeah. So you can use it. We just don't diversify. Like Gun Website said, we kind of stay in our own community and preach to the choir. And it takes a little bit of willingness to get kicked in the nuts, actually, to go outside of our community and talk about this, where we don't have the safety net of all of us agreeing. And you got to be able to stand up and actually have more than bumper sticker logic to throw out. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You have to actually be able to talk to people and not just go, "You're a snowflake libtard, F you, my rots." It's like, no, it has to be deeper than that. And you have to be able to converse and be willing to hear. Again, for the 10,000th time, guns are only built to kill people. Why would you want one of those? Okay, here's why. And just converse.
And I think it's like you mentioned, going to that cowboy shoot the first time and kind of taking a minute to go, uh-oh, what am I doing? And then after experiencing it, anything that's difficult, it's always going to be difficult. Everything easy was difficult at first. Once you've had a discussion, and I'm not going to say I'm great at this. I experienced it with the anti-Trump / anti-gun rally in Phoenix. 18,000 people or more showed up, and it was the angriest parade I've ever seen in my life. And we were there kind of with our jaws dropped, because the two pro-gun things that had happened in Arizona were tiny compared to that. And this is Arizona, where you expect to see pro-gun stuff outweighing the anti. So it was, I suspect, mostly anti-Trump, but it was because of guns. So there were people there with a vehemently anti-gun. And a couple of us from gun channels were there, and we experienced it, and we watched it, the parade kind of go around in a big horseshoe shape and back towards the Capitol. And as it kind of went past us around the corner and back past us again, and we watched it all dwindle, we had a chance to experience the entirety of the amount of people that were there. And as it kind of faded into the giant grass area, or whatever you call, like the area around the Capitol, where it turned into more of just a big rally with speeches and stuff, there was a kid sitting there with a little cardboard sign, no cameras, nothing, just a kid with a skateboard, actually, and a sign that said, "Guns aren't the problem, change my mind." And he was just holding that over his head, and we saw that, and we saw a guy stop and start to conversate with him, completely just regurgitating bullet points. And the kid was doing his best to parry or to have a conversation with the guy, but the guy got frustrated and started to yell. And at some point, I tried to get into it, and I failed miserably. And so I'm not suggesting that I'm good at this, but like anything, it's difficult. Once you've experienced it enough, that's going to become old hat. And not only are you going to be aware of all the various positions people bring to you, but you're going to have the ability to give them whatever response is appropriate for that person. And ideally, once enough of us are efforting in that direction, then we can get together and share our conclusions and our strategies and our successes and failures, and then others can experience that. And then we've got more and more productive boots on the ground, so that it's not as though it's starting yet, but that's one aspect of this whole thing that some of us have to take that challenge to go be the first people to have those conversations, or to start those conversations, so that we can get experience.
And that's the only way you're going to get it. But if you're someone that loves trolling people on the internet, doing it in real life is so much more better. Because again, they have their bullet points. We know the anti-gun position is mostly emotional. We know the fact. We've heard the facts. Now, the hard part is getting them organized in your head and getting them out of your mouth. But we know their whole argument is based upon nothing, and we can win it. We can win that argument. But if you're just talking to someone that's vehemently anti-gun and it's only the two of you, you're kind of wasting your time, other than looking at it as practice. This is just my opinion. But if you're in a room with 3 or 4 other people that haven't had their mind made up and are kind of leaning one way or the other, then yeah, I'll have that discussion with the vehemently anti-gun person, because I know I can whip their butt with facts, and then tell them their argument is based on emotion, and point it out and ask them questions. They're really not at them, but at the audience, and leave. I don't have to have a win. I don't have to have the slow 80s movie clap, when I walk out of the room. I just know that I put questions in their heads that they can ask later on, or even Google, and find out, holy crap, Tony was right. That's all I need. I need them to critically think. I don't need to change your mind right then, but I need to plant that seed. But yeah, if it's only going to be me and an anti-gun dude yelling at each other, no, I end the conversation, walk right away. Not wasting my time.
I think that's super valuable. We've had discussions. We do an Every Second Matters effort. Tony was there a long time ago, again, at the end of 2013. Our first effort towards doing something to combat the apathy was to agree to get together on the second day of every month. And we just talk about guns and talk about Second Amendment, really, on the second day of every month. And over the years in those discussions, we've talked about that same concept, that you don't need to change people's minds in a conversation, but if you can be aware, since they do have just their regurgitated talking points, they don't put a lot of effort into this. It's just one of the many things they hate Trump about, or they don't like conservatives. They've got a pretty narrow focus over there. If we can give them some challenge to their points, that just make them go research. Most of these people are completely interested and consider themselves, knowledgeable and well-educated. And if you can challenge them to go do some research, we all know the facts are on our side. Once they start to discover that they've been duped with just platitudes or what, then it's going to damage the other's position on them. And then I think that's where we got our best chance of opening some minds and having further discussion.
Actually, at my last event, one of the young guys that came out 2 events ago, young Hispanic dude, really well educated, well spoken. Maj Touré is the one that brought him in. He stumbled across Maj Touré and Black Guns Matter, and he went to one of his events in Brooklyn, I think. And then he Googled, like, the second is for everyone or something, and he stumbled upon what I do in Jersey. He's been coming to my events. Well, he's at my event December 5th, I think it was. And he goes, yo, can I talk to you in private for a second? And I was like, yo, what's up? He was like, I was posting stuff up on Facebook about being here and posting pictures. And one of my lifelong friends just attacked me verbally in a private message, talking about I'm a sellout and the place is full of racist white people and they have you hoodwinked. And he was like, dude, this is my friend. I've known him, since the 7th grade. And he's like, all those white people just want to kill you. It was just some really, truly racist, horrible crap. And he was like, what am I supposed to say to him? And he said, well, I told him, I said, like, tell him I'm here. I'm running the group. I'm a minority and no one's here to kill anyone. We're here to welcome everyone. And he was like, I did. And he was like, how do I know you're not a sellout? And it was just ridiculous. And he was devastated because he said, I never saw this coming. And I was like, okay, here's the thing. Your friend, because you're there, it's shaken something within him and he's attacked you. Like his core values have been shook because he's your friend and he's anti-gun and he can't believe he's friends with someone that's pro-gun. I was like, but you're not a sellout. So here's what you do. And I gave him a meme with Huey P. Newton, and it says, an unarmed people or slaves are subject to slavery at any given moment. I took it, I cut it out, I emailed it to him. I said, send this to your boy and ask if Huey P. Newton was a sellout. And what has he done for his people or a group of people that equals what Huey P. Newton has done? And let me know what he says. Dude didn't speak to him again, hasn't emailed him, nothing. Because the whole image of somehow a gun owner is a white dude that just wants to kill everybody who's not white. Some people just want to buy into it because they want to buy into that victimhood status. And that is not true. Being armed, having the ability to be armed, stops you from being a victim if you choose to defend yourself. It gives cowards pause. And to sit there and go, somehow, every white person is racist, every cop is racist, the government is racist, and Trump is racist, but only the government should have guns, is a ridiculous statement. And when
right. They don't put it together like that. When you force them to see that illogic, right?
Mm-hmm. When you force them to see that, they just stop and they're like, and then that's usually when the name calling happens, because again, you've shook their core value. You've made them look at themselves and go, well, what the heck have I been saying? And I'm like, exactly. What have you been saying? What have you been pushing? And of course, the Uncle Tom sellout bullcrap. I don't even buy into it because none of these people, not one of them, has ever read Uncle Tom's Cabin. So I don't expect them to understand anything about Uncle Tom.
And you know, I kind of have a different approach with people like that. At first, I'll appeal to them emotionally. Like I'll set it up. Okay, if you're in the house, you and your son or whatever, how are you going to protect them? What are you going to do to protect your seed, your family? What's the best way to do that? Is a firearm. And then they start to, get to that emotional threshold of like, okay, I see what you're going for here. Then you hit them with the facts. At least that's the way I've done it. And again, it's just one-on-one conversations with people at work. Mm-hmm. It's just one-off associates that I know that are just not into guns or not even aware of the Second Amendment or the attacks that we have. That's the way I've done it.
Yeah, never. It's not going to be one way to do it. You have to be able to speak to people on multiple levels because everyone's not cookie cutter. And I think that's one of the advantages we can have as someone who's actually thinking their way through this. We can talk to people from different angles. Yeah, dude, how do you stop yourself? How do you stop 3 young guys from kicking your door in and just taking what they want? And what if they want more than you're willing to give? How do you stop that? And I love the people. I'll grab a bat. Really? Against 3 dudes? You're going to grab a bat? It's not going to work out like you want. Have you ever swung a bat at someone in the building? It's like, it helps to be able to just talk to people and put them mentally in that place. And it also helps to have facts on your side. One of the anti-NRA, anti-Ronald Reagan things is it the Munford Act or the Mulford Act? Yeah, Mulford Act in the 1960s when they made open carry illegal in California because the Black Panthers were carrying openly. They go, see, the NRA wasn't standing behind.
They got sick of what was going on, and they peacefully went to the Capitol armed, and then, of course, they have to pass legislation.
Yep. So, of course, that legislation was passed, and people go, oh, see, Ronald Reagan was behind. I'm like, listen, do you even know what that was named after? That was a Republican senator that wrote that up, right? Yeah, well, within 2 terms, he lost his seat and it was never regained by a Republican again in California ever. It's like knowing the history kind of helps. And putting it out there going, yeah, so the NRA, again, wasn't political until the 1970s. The NRA was just doing range stuff up until then, really. They hadn't jumped into the political arena. So, yeah, you had a bunch of fudge with NRA hats back then. But, again, there was no NRA ILA. There was no concerted effort by the NRA to keep all of our Second Amendment rights. NRA has grown. And no, the NRA was not started to teach slaves how to shoot. Can we stop saying that? It's not true at all. NRA was founded by Northern generals to actually teach Northerners to shoot better because they got their butts handed to them when they faced a bunch of country boys. That's how it started. But the NRA did reach out in the 1950s and help Black people out and get Black people guns and start charters in a place like in South Carolina where they were being terrorized by Klansmen. Yeah, that happened. There's a book called Negroes and Guns by a guy whose last name is Williams. And he was NAACP head down in South Carolina, and he was tired of being pushed around, and he decided to stand up. But he needed an NRA charter to start a club so he can get those M1 carbines from the CMP. So yeah, the NRA actually helped out Black people in South Carolina more than the NAACP did at that time with that one incident, and most people don't know that.
And the same people that don't know that will throw the NRA under the bus now for actions of individuals when this organization's been around since like 1700s.
1800s, yeah, exactly.
1860.
Yeah, I don't know. I keep hanging up. Anytime they call me and try to tell me that, I just hang up on them. The NRA always calls. You know how they do with those phone calls. I get called every day by the NRA. And they're like, Wayne LaPierre wants us to tell you. I was like, you know what? I 100% agree with you, ma'am. We do need to fight for our Second Amendment rights. And you can help me by donating to my GoFundMe at the Second Is For Everyone, because it's a grassroots organization. Dude, I do my elevator speech to them, and they're just left flat-footed and stunned. So at the end, I say, so can I depend on you to go to diversityshoot.com and donate to us? Well, yeah, that's what I thought. Have a good day, and I hang up. Just when I feel like giggling. I know it's childlike, but I'm childlike.
Let me throw a palate cleanser out there. And you've been on Riding Shotgun with Charlie?
I was actually on Riding Shotgun with Charlie. We filmed it yesterday.
Okay.
So it'll come out in February.
So that's another, I don't know, I'm guessing that's maybe I'm still going to like Gun Freedom Radio probably better than that one. Just I haven't listened to enough, and she does 2 hours worth of podcast every week. But Riding Shotgun with Charlie is another cool one. This is the guy who claim to fame was, I think, not the guy with he was playing a trumpet and shooting.
Yep.
And did sort of a musical gun video, and it went crazy. And then his podcast, however, he drives around in a car with a camera facing the passenger and himself, and then you guys just drive around having a conversation. And very similar, James, he just lets you guys focus on whatever project or what you've got going. And but his is longer. His will go an hour or whatever, how long it takes, I guess. Where'd you guys end up driving?
We were going to drive up to Gun for Hire Range. That's where I host my events. And we contacted Anthony, and Anthony wasn't available yesterday, so we didn't go because we're going to try to make it like one big trip, make it into a destination thing. But we just ended up driving around Central Jersey and having a discussion. Charlie and I actually sat on I think 2 years ago, we were on a discussion board together at NJ SafeCon also. So yeah, we knew each other. We talked on the internet, and he finally got around to actually interviewing me, and it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. Hope you guys watch it. He had to get a bigger car. Just saying.
Now, does he actually drive his car, or I figured he just flies to places and gets a rental?
Yeah. He actually bought a rental down because I think he did like 3 interviews. Over, he's off for the holidays, so he just hooked up with as many people in the area that he could drive to and interview over the 3 or 4 days he's off.
Very cool. Cool concept, and he's reaching people that are doing stuff like Simon's doing, or like Tony's doing with Simon Says Training. And like I say, we all have attempt, to reach, but there's so much stuff going on that unless somebody's in a mood to go out and explore, or they, hear you on another show or something, they might not find you. So I think Charlie's doing a great effort to get some of the dry Second Amendment stuff that isn't, the flashy, shareable, shooting and playing a trumpet.
Professional.
Kind of
Yeah, professionally done stuff, though. What do I want to say? I've been on Cheryl Todd's show. I've been on Paul Latham's show. I've been on pretty much every show on the Firearms Radio Network. I've been on Bill Frady's Lock and Load. I mean, just anything and everything. I've been on Gun for Hire Radio a lot. You have to put it, if you want to be a Second Amendment advocate, really, I think one of the best things to do is try to be on as many shows as possible. But you got to also be entertaining. You got to be there, and you got to bring something to the show. I mean, just some guys can, some guys can't. And I just think it's great, man. I started out February 2015. My story started out February 2015, and the National, African American Gun Association, I think it's called, NAGA. We all started out in the exact same month in 2015. So, and of course, they grew by leaps and bounds, and I was hanging around in Jersey doing stuff for free. Oh, darn, I did that wrong. But whatever. I just think it's important to be an organic group that's just doing this. And maybe one day, eventually, I'll be able to retire from my current job and pick this up. But I'm going to try to make this grow as much as possible. I'm trying to reach as many people as possible, not only in Jersey, but in Maryland. I was in New York State earlier this year with the Hudson County Friends of the NRA because they were being attacked. They actually had people protesting the meeting. They had people protesting the dinner, trying to shut it down. So Anthony Calandro, which is the owner of Gun for Hire Range and also the host of Gun for Hire Radio, actually bought tickets, a bunch of tickets, and said, anybody who wants to come from Jersey to go to the NRA dinner, I'll pay your way in. So I went up there to actually support them, and it was awesome. I bought some raffle tickets and threw some money in the pot. And we have to all support each other. We have to cross state lines. We have to be consolidated because right now we're against actual millionaires that are paying money to attack our Second Amendment rights. Like there's powers behind this. If you want to look at this like Super Friends, man, there's Lex Luthor's paying money to try to take your rights away from you. And they let you know. I mean, Bloomberg has said it. Bloomberg has said stuff that'll get Trump dragged out of the White House. If Trump had said it. Like we need to disarm blacks and Hispanics between 19 and 21.
For your own good, though.
Yeah, for your own good. Oh, yeah, that's not condescending at all.
Yeah, there's no uproar there. And I think I don't disagree with you that's an advantage, though. I mean, it's seriously an advantage. They don't have overwhelming majorities of people because guns aren't that dangerous. Guns can be dangerous for sure, but people live in harmony with there's as many guns as there are cars. So I like to potentially use that as an illustration of people. Like, you drove past how many cars to get here? You drove past approximately that many guns. So if you really think to the core belief that firearms are somehow only owned by bad people, then you really think that we live in a lot of bad people out there, and it's just not the case. So it's that perception or whatever. So I think by that they don't have an overwhelming amount of people who just hate guns. They have an overwhelming amount of people who will do whatever because they hate Trump or they, want Hillary over Bernie or whatever their situation is. And guns are a pawn in that game. But because they only have the one guy funding it, and his strategy, for example, in Washington was just go buy all the marketing firms and put people whose job it is to know people's habits and manipulate them, put them to work for his agenda. And they were willing to do it because they're capitalists and they had no core beliefs, I guess, on rights. But he just went in and hired all the different marketing firms. So it worked, but it's seriously not a way to win. You can't win by just throwing money at something, because at one point you can throw money at people who aren't going to listen, and you're just wasting money. So what we've got is boots on the ground. We have individuals who are truly dedicated to this. We have the facts and the history on our side. Those hundreds of millions of guns that have existed throughout time, in the relatively low in relationship to the rest of the world, murder rates that we have here are history, and they choose to, manipulate the statistics when they want to make it seem as though it's dangerous now. But we live in a fairly pretty peaceful country, and the people that are aware of that are the people that are on our side. So we have so much more power. When we sit back and do nothing, yes, a rich person can come in and do horrible things, but we have, again, the potential is on our side. We have the means to communicate. We have enough people with enough intent. And once we actually get efficient at spreading the word in a reasonable way, in a useful way to people who are basically undecided, that's the majority of the people are undecided, and they're easily manipulated and swayed because they have no skin in the game. But again, with some intent and with some effort, we are enough people to be able to change the mindset of the culture of the society, so that you could throw all the money you want at it. If he, for example, said, you can't, buy too many rolls of toilet paper at a time, and that was just of no interest to the rest of the world, he could spend money all day and night on that and never affect anything. We have the power to change the mindset of all the humans that we know, is, in real life and school, church, and civic organizations, and all the different places that, we get to gather. And again, with a little bit of intent, we can nullify any rich person's efforts.
Yeah, we can, but we have to get off our butts. And that's probably one of the more frustrating things. Like, it costs you no money to vote. You know what I mean? And again, 70% of the people in Jersey didn't vote in the last election. It's really frustrating. And then the gun owners that don't vote, or the gun owners that were union members and they voted the way their union told them. I'm like, dude, your union doesn't care about your Second Amendment rights. Your union only cares about getting your fees every month. I'm like, and it's conversations, but gun owners continually have excuses why they don't vote. My vote doesn't count. Oh, there's no one good on the ballot anyway. I'm like, then you need to show up in June and vote in the primaries and do some research. You need to reach out and actually talk to your friends about who you're voting for and why, and not just the same Republican Democrat ticket. Maybe you need to go somewhere else. Maybe you need to find someone else. We have to be active. We have the ability in our palms of our hands with these phones to learn whatever you want to do research on whatever you want to. And it seems that the more information we have available, the lazier we get. I mean, think about how they used to vote 100 years ago. 150 years ago, when many people were illiterate or had educations that never got past the 8th grade. They would vote. They would be well read. They would go down to the local pub. Someone would read the paper in the town square. I mean, they were hungry for information. And now we're just as ignorant as we want to be, man. And it sucks because our rights are being taken away in a way that our great grandparents wouldn't have allowed. Or as people, as a person of color, that I had family members that fought for their own civil rights, but now I have family members that won't bother to go vote. It's like, it's hard to wrap your head around it, and it's not like it was 100 years ago. It was in the freaking 60s, dude. The last civil rights legislation as part of the civil rights movement in this country was 1968. That wasn't that long ago. How do the grandkids of these people not be bothered to vote? That's ridiculous, and it's frustrating.
So what I think it kind of comes down to is not just education. It is getting somebody's voice out there, or getting somebody in these people's ear to let them know. You know what I mean? And it's hard. It's a hard thing to do because we do have an information overload out there on the internet right now. I mean, we got memes and cat videos and Jello eating contests. And so finding
Two
a way
girls, one cup.
Exactly, right? But finding a way to distribute that information is what I think we need to do. You know what I mean? Like, maybe invest in, I'm not saying us like me and you, but maybe like the gun community or something can start investing in places like gun channels, and finding new technologies out there, funding new technologies out there to help us with this fight.
We can't be lazy.
Yeah.
And it really, As a fat dude, trust me, I know lazy. I didn't get this physique by working out. But you have to do stuff. Again, just sharing stuff, sharing videos like this, sharing stuff from gun channels, sharing what is it? Every second matters. All of that stuff helps get word out. Not just watching a video and not even hitting the like button, but actually liking it or sharing it, getting your views if you can. Understand, I don't want anyone to lose their job because the school board saw they liked too many gun videos.
That's a good point.
But
Be aware of the
but
platform you're sharing it on.
yeah, understand that. They can be blowback from this, but I don't think everybody's doing it. I know I made a conscious choice on my job that I was going to be the pro gun dude, but I do my job, and you're going to have to go out of your way to find a way to get rid of me. I make sure my I's are dotted, my T's are crossed so I don't get fired. But I know it could turn against me at the drop of a hat. But I'm 100% pro gun. I've had discussions with priests, nuns on my job. I've had, and it's just the way it is. And we can indeed agree to disagree, but they've heard my side of it and they see I'm not what they think. So, yeah, if they didn't, they wouldn't speak to me, but they do. You know what I mean? And we have conversations because we agree on more than we disagree with. And I think maybe that's one of the ways you can also have this discussion. Come to a point that you guys can agree on, taxes are too high or this, that, or the other. Understand, you're just talking to another person. You may have a disagreement on the Second Amendment, but you're still talking to another person that you probably have more in common with than you don't. You grew up watching the same cartoons, you know, Tom and Jerry and Bugs Bunny and stuff like that. Your kids go to the same schools. Make sure you understand, though, you're not talking to an enemy. You're just talking to a person that has another opinion about something. And work it from that angle. Let's not be blinded by the fact that, yes, these guys are attacking our civil rights, but maybe they don't understand it like we understand it. Maybe they don't see it like we see it. But we can't talk at them. We can't call them names because it doesn't help. And especially if we do it in public, because you calling someone a name will turn someone else off. And that's not what we want to do. We want to bring more people in.
Hey, Tony, it's Tony.
Hey, Tony.
I have a question for you. First of all, I think all Tonys are awesome, apparently. But, I've got all these people telling me, it sounds like we have a lot in common besides our name. Like I'm a, certified basic pistol, basic rifle instructor, right? NRA.
Yep.
And I did that because of, 6 or 8 years ago, I was involved with scouts with my son, and to sign off on their merit badges, the BSA required that some sort of certification, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now I have people telling me, "Oh, you're an idiot for being a member of the NRA," and you should just ditch that. And my thing is that unless we all do it in mass, that the trickle of people who are leaving the NRA apparently aren't making a dent in the trickle that are joining the NRA. So I wonder how, I know you've probably had people approach you about this too. I heard you say earlier, probably a couple of hours ago, you had an NRA certification. What are your thoughts on whether people should join or if they are a member, maintain their membership? Because I'm getting ready to up mine or re-up it or not. But y'all got like, I don't know, that many years, 6 or 8 years invested in, 5 or 6 different certifications. And, it's funny when you've got that kind of history and that kind of effort in invested in something, you're a little bit less likely to just ditch it,
Yeah, I mean, listening to someone that pays $35 a year tell me that I shouldn't be an NRA instructor as I have to renew all of my certifications. Yeah. That's cute. I'm glad you have an opinion. But no, I'm redoing mine too. NRA is the 900-pound gorilla in the room when it comes to our Second Amendment rights. Can't be denied. Not walking away from it. Going to be a part of it because I want to get people like Anthony Calandro on the board of directors. I want to get people like Adam Crowd on the board of directors. It might make a difference. It has to. There's got to be new blood coming into the NRA. We have to get rid of the NRA's PR firm because they suck. They're doing it wrong. And the only way you can change that is actually to be a part of it. Yeah, I join other groups. I'm members of the New Jersey groups here. I support what they do. But I'm not walking away from the NRA because the NRA is the big kahuna. It is the one that the anti-gunners name by name because they...
Did he fade out?
Yeah, I think we lost Tony.
Was that me? I thought.
Tony, if you're hearing this, you faded out there. You may need to restart or something froze maybe.
Well, at least
Tony, that I don't even have anywhere. Well, I've got, I guess I was an instructor, but I've never renewed it. So I understand the time commitment and the cost commitment to becoming an NRA instructor, and then the continuing with it, you know, takes effort. And then being involved, like you say, you see a different side of the organization than just the results of its PR firm and that kind of thing. So I agree, though, that if you just abandon it, why would we want to abandon something it's got the history and it's one of our foundational organizations, really, as far as things go.
I guess I'd be willing to give all that up if somebody came to me and said, okay, 100,000 of us are going to leave all at once, you know, and we're going to do it tomorrow. And I was, you know what I mean? But there's not.
But I agree with you. I understand what you're saying there. Like, do something that actually has an effective message to them. And I could understand being part of that. However, I wouldn't then dismiss the NRA for the rest of my life, right? I would either rejoin later, you know, to be whatever. But I can understand being part of something that makes them, slap them in the face and tell them that their membership is not satisfied with their typical or their day-to-day business or whatever. But I'm just saying, I don't like the idea of throwing out is it the baby with the bathwater for this? Like, I just don't like throwing away an organization that's our second oldest, you know, gun rights organization, and they've only been tasked with gun rights since 70 whatever, 72 or something. So, you know, this is relatively new for them, and the people, the same people that'll get on the bandwagon for dismissing them entirely because of their actions today, I don't think they've put the time into. I mean, the NRA has been around for a long time. It hasn't been silent on gun rights. There was no attack on gun rights for a major chunk of its existence. This modern attack on the individual right to own firearms isn't something that's been going on since 1776. So how can you scorn an organization for not defending something that wasn't under attack for decades and decades ago? So I just don't see the reason for dropping an organization in the tradition.
Well, it sounds like Tony's taking it, you know, he's doing something positive with his certification too, where, you know, mine now is pretty much going dormant because I wouldn't do it professionally, but he's using it for, you know, the common good, which I think is cool. You know, it's not, I mean, it takes work, but it's not an incredibly difficult certification to get, you know, but, you know, as far as, you know, basic rifle or basic pistol, it's probably one of the more easy certifications to get. And you could, you know, if you wanted to do something like Tony's doing, wouldn't take that much time, you know, money and effort to do it. If you wanted to start a local group and do what he's doing.
And it's really the only option. The only other option out there is law enforcement certification, and that's not anywhere near as easy. And it's going to be state to state, I think, right? There's not even like regional law enforcement. So much more difficult to do any other type of accreditation for firearms instruction.
Right.
Yeah, exactly it. I'm back. Sorry, guys. My internet dropped off at my house, so I'm doing this through my regular phone. Hopefully I sound okay.
Yeah, you're just fine.
So one of the comments we've got, what about the NFA? Wasn't that they're doing? Because I was just saying the NRA wasn't necessarily anti-gun. So I think that is worth research. There's probably something more written on it, and it would be great to have attorneys who might have dealt with it in their projects for school or whatever who could put more insight. But I find new information about it quite often, and I honestly wish I had more time to devote to doing historical research like that. But the NFA was originally, generally overall, very I view, a reaction to gangsters and prohibition. So there was no organized crime. They made alcohol illegal. Organized crime happened, and then all of a sudden you had a new situation in the country. And this is a time before police radios, so you could drive across state lines and be free. So it was just a different time, and there was always media. There's been dime store novels since the cowboy days. Everybody knows real life West versus dime store novel cowboy stories. Same thing happened with gangsters. We lived in a time when newspapers and radio were barely all we had to get information around. So it was easy to influence and easy to rely on artificial assumptions about what gangsters were really doing. And the NFA was a result of this perception that machine guns, the stuff that was coming surplus out of World War I. Imagine the end of World War I with no NFA. Anybody that wanted to could just buy whatever they wanted. That was the perception of that danger was what got the NFA. They originally tried to outlaw all guns, handguns included. There's a definition for handguns for a reason. From some interpretations I've seen of that whole time and circumstances, the NRA did their first political activity to stop handguns from being a registered item on the NFA. So other people will say that the NRA started the whole thing. I just was doing the research for the last card deck there, and I found out that when Maxim created the suppressor, right? So Maxim created the machine gun. His son Maxim created the suppressor. That was like 1929, like days before the NFA. People saw that a suppressor happened, and the perception was that all guns are going to be quiet. Let's make this illegal. So it didn't even get almost built before the politicians were jumping on the fear. So the NFA is definitely something that's worth scrutinizing. Obviously, it's a linchpin in all federal level legislation that has anything to do with guns. So by questioning it and removing it, everything else falls apart. We've got things like the firearms now, the Shockwave and the TAC 13 and 14s, which exist. We've got braces, which exist. We had trigger issues where we could simulate rapid fire. There's so many things. We've got suppressors for hunting. There's so many things, so many angles that we've got to go after the NFA. It's frustrating that we bicker about ways to defend bump stocks when we could be efforting towards uniting on focus on NFA and eliminate all this from the thing. But I got off topic there. So the question was, what did the NRA cause the NFA? If you can show me a concise explanation of how that happened, I would appreciate it. I wish I had time to go and research it myself. I've asked people throughout my time interviewing and having discussions like John Lott and Knox, people who I figure are researchers at the top level, and it's something that they've said they've been interested in researching as well. So it's something that I don't think there's a definitive answer, and the people that will tell you there is are not being genuine. Or at least research the article.
I actually read up because, like now, even back in the day, the press was, if it bleeds, it leads. Oh, come on. Really? Did I fall off? Okay. No, if it bleeds, it leads.
No, you're here.
And I read something during the entire time of Prohibition, during the gangster era, there were only 12 shootings using submachine guns. Like the entire time. But the press and movies just put it out there and glamorized it. And that was one of the things that helped lead to the NFA, because people thought all the gangsters use submachine guns. And they said, really, they only found during their research, I don't know how much they did. I think they just went through the papers on microfiche and all that stuff from, I guess, the larger things, but they only found 12 during the entire Prohibition time. But it was blown, just like the dime store novels telling you how many shootouts were in the Old West that happened at high noon. The exact same thing happened with the machine guns and NFA. And a big thing about suppressors I heard was poaching. They were doing it they said because of poaching, because Maxim Jr. came up with it, I think, like right before World War One. But the whole Great Depression thing, people were hunting illegally. They were poaching food. They were killing stuff out of season just so they could feed their family. And they were worried that the $7 suppressor was being used because that's how much the thing cost. It was inexpensive. They were using suppressors to kill game out of season. And that's why it made the list. It could be true, could not be true, but I'm just saying that's what I saw written. That's why they got rid of it. I thought it was going to be, movies and assassins, but no, that wasn't it. It was supposedly poaching, hunting out of season.
Looks like G-Web's just taking a break, but I have another point for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's funny. I really appreciate what you're doing because I used to give people in anti-gun states a hard time. I would be like, why aren't these people just taking their pitchforks out to? But it's kind of cool to see people like you doing that kind of thing in New Jersey and other. I just wish I would see more people in California and these other states doing this kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's rough because, again, what it's going to cost people. Some people, and some gun owners just sit on their butt regardless, and they're never, ever going to do anything. And whatever. I mean, I'm not going to motivate them. When I make speeches and stuff, I just concentrate on the positive and telling people what they could do. Because who wants to sit there and listen to a speech of someone lambasting people that aren't even there? So yeah, if you want to help, this is how you can help. This is how you can help us in the fight. And it is frustrating being from Virginia, where we have rights, but living in New Jersey, where people have seemed to accept some of these stupid anti-gun laws like it's just part of life. Like, to me, it's annoying that I even have to get a firearms ID card. Like, what the heck does that even mean, dude? You do a background check when I buy a gun. Why do I need another thing and give the state money and have another background check done for you to say it's okay for me to buy a gun and I still have to get a background check? And I cannot carry in Jersey. 1.3 million gun owners in the state, 1,700 concealed carry permits in the state. That's it.
That's ridiculous.
Because you have to take them to Superior Court. You have to sue the state government for your right to carry, and you will lose every time.
I keep forgetting that about New Jersey.
Yeah, people don't understand. Even people live in the state don't understand. Even gun owners. Like, I work with law enforcement, and some of them don't know how it works at all. They're like, "Oh, you have a carry permit?" And I'm like, "No, I have a firearms ID card. Aren't they the same thing?" And I'm like, "How are you a cop?" It's like you look.
I think it would be cool.
There's so few people that are taking advantage of going through the legal process. They just don't encounter them, right? So that's something that, things they have to deal with. It's just something they rarely encounter.
Oh, very rare. I mean, again, 1,700 people out of 1.3 million gun owners. Yeah.
I cut Tony off there.
Oh.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say, I think it would be cool. I thought you were still going, G-Liz. I was going to say, I thought it would be cool to see one of your events, even if it was just one on your YouTube channel. I just subscribed to it. So
I was talking to a guy. Again, almost everything I do is just with help with volunteers, because the coffers aren't there to hire a photographer or to hire a media guy. But one of the guys volunteered to help, so we're going to see what we can do in 2019. He had some ideas about everything from the diversity shoot to the Minuteman Challenge, to just getting it out there. Again, my entire point is to get gun owners to shoot more, to grow the community and introduce them to gun owners, and just to educate even about gear and guns. Like, I mean, you guys know what about gear review. Gun guys love gear, but also new people don't know what to buy. So they'll end up with stuff like Uncle Mike's nylon holster and not know that it's probably not the safest thing to get. You know what I mean? Because that's the first thing I got. For my 1911, I had an Uncle Mike's inside the waistband, pretty much nylon sock, not understanding that was just bad juju.
And it's just, it makes a poor experience. And then you're like, oh, I don't know why this would be so much fun. But having a workshop like you're doing where people get to experience a little bit of the flavor of everything, then they can, and then like you say, once they start seeing some people nerd out on a Glock customization or a new kind of holster that they made themselves, or maybe a long range gun that they zero in, all the different nuances that we get into. It's just like any hobby, right? People are going to be like, oh, I can understand why somebody might own 10 AR-15s now, and they're not anything.
Yeah. And Henry donated 3 rifles to us. Henry's out, and they make their 22s in Jersey and Bayonne. So it's a great thing. And people can come and put their hands on a Henry Golden Boy 22. It's a smooth shooting rifle. It's awesome. It has New Jersey in gold right on the side. You'll be amazed at the people that just can't believe that. Like, holy crap, this is made here? And it's awesome. And it's pretty. And it's smooth. You know how many Henrys I've sold? Because Henry gave us 3? Because people want them now. And I've sold 10 22s based on they've never shot a 22 before. High Point has donated carbines. They donated 3 carbines to us last year.
I just need to teach you how to make crappy videos. I mean, you were talking about not having a photographer. I can teach you how to make some crappy videos.
I've got some crappy videos.
Oh, I mean, like you could take a tripod and set a camera up at one of your shooting events and just leave it running for a while. That way, I think you could probably get more people to help, like people out of state, to help you with like your Patreon account. That you could push. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would really help. If you go to diversityshoot.com, over at the bottom on the side, you'll see a video of me. That was done by my friend John Willett. He ran the Second Amendment Conference, New Jersey SafeCon. But he was like, Tony, you need a video. So he did that. He edited, put the music behind it, and it was great. But, John does other stuff. So I have to depend on friends. I have to depend on people that say they want to help, but then if they get caught up in life, the video they made just never shows up again. Like they just drop off. So that kind of stinks. So yeah, having the funds to actually pay for something would probably help. But right now, word of mouth, the videos that we do post, it'll get there. It'll get there with volunteers. It'll get there with help. And once we get enough funds to actually have a project that we go, okay, we're definitely shooting a video. We'll do a compilation of 3 or 4 events. We'll let people see what's happening, and we'll just get word out. Maybe be able to pass it around Facebook pages and things like that. And of course, having it on the YouTube channel, and it'll grow.
I just want you to remember that YouTube is not like, I have some friends, and I'm not going to mention their names. They won't do videos because their standards are too high. They're the same way. They're like, oh, I don't have an editor. I don't have a video guy. I don't have this guy. Dude, just set a camera up, take some video. Don't worry. YouTube is not that platform that you have to worry about being professionally produced, and it's just you're just getting it out there,
Yeah, you're probably right. Just get off the pot and just throw something up.
Because take a tripod and put your iPhone on it. You should. I mean, sometimes I go to the range by myself. I'm just like, hey.
Well, we live in I think we're all on the same track here. We're in a time when you could potentially ask somebody to hold a camera and take some video, get some raw footage, and then just upload that to like a Dropbox or a Google Drive someplace or some free storage on the cloud, and then have participation from people that are into video into video editing, and that's their thing. They just are looking for content, and now they know, oh, I got somebody who I can help out. So we're in a time when you can have resources like that out there.
And that's another reason I talk to people like you guys. I can't know everything. I depend on the intelligence of others to help get me through this. Right now I'm working on the 501c3 because, again, I'm doing this out of pocket. Hopefully this year, well, I know this year will get done. Last year we finally raised enough to pay all the fees and everything. And this year we should be able to step it up and swing for the fence. and go ahead and get that done. The only frustrating part is probably it's really nerves on my part going, my coffers are going to be empty. I'm pretty much going to spend almost every dime we have on the process to become a charitable organization. And nothing about being a charity means you're going to get money. Nothing about that means 100% I'm getting this money back. And again, as a guy who looks at every event going, I don't know if I'm going to fill the next event, it's kind of nerve-wracking. And I don't know if people understand. And maybe it's just me.
Oh no, that's the concern that we all have, and we all either voice it or not. You know, we talked about being gun owners and having to make a decision in some places if you're going to be public about your interest in guns, right? So it's the same kind of thing as content creators. How vocal are we going to be about the money side? So since I've given up any kind of decorum or anything a long time ago, it's notes here that I wanted to bring that up before too. And this is the thing that's frustrating for me, since I've been working in internet for a long time, and what the web can do, and I've seen it go from dial-up to high-speed to phones, and we know that it's not stopping here; it's going to continue. And the means of facilitation, the things that used to be just not possible, are free, like this Hangout. Amazing technology we get to use for free. Anyhow, one of the things that's frustrating is the amount of resources that are out there and just aren't distributed with intent or well. And some places will get lots of funding and some places won't. And, you know, this is capitalism. So we're all out on, for ourselves, but we can also work together. We can collaborate and we can make more efficient use of all this stuff. So one of the efforts that I think we can do better with as a Second Amendment media is the helping with that. So when somebody's out there literally putting feet on the ground, it's obviously necessary for them to be aware of all the different pieces of it, including funding. But when I've seen checks for $10,000 exchange hands from people who don't care that much about $10,000, knowing that there's also people out there, probably a lot more people, that can throw $1,000 around. And it's just not the same value as it would be to some other person, or $1,000 is 2 months worth of feeding the kids or something. So, everybody's a different plate, but we're in the richest country in the world, and we're talking about not very many people with the actual feet on the ground. So part of this effort is uniting a Second Amendment media is to help the funders, the people with the resources, the financial resources out there, to better be able to allocate. In other words, if someone's going to drop a $50,000 check out there, let's at least let them be aware that they could go to a platform like a Patreon or a Indiegogo or a GoFundMe or these crowdfunding type of platforms, and they could take that same 50,000 or even 20,000 of it and take projects, individual projects, from startup through, lots of effort. And it wouldn't take much for a lot of people out there that aren't looking to make $1 million. And it's frustrating because in the past, there's been lots of people with their hands out. And unfortunately, the people who are most savvy about putting their hands out are typically the ones that are keeping most of that money. But again, the platforms like Indiegogo and what's the big one, Kickstarter, those allow people who are interested in being venture capitalists, the investment capital behind new ventures. It's allowing them to be aware of individual efforts like all the stuff that we are all aware of. So I think that's something that we have a potential here, and it's not like we have to be jacks of all trades and do everything. And hopefully some of this, when we talk about getting together as Second Amendment media, publicly and off air, when we're in real life talking to people and having dinners and just meeting people in the hallway at meetups and stuff, that's when that kind of networking and collaborations can take place. And this will all, it's not going to be overnight, but I suspect that if we all put effort towards keeping these communication channels open, we'll see the distribution of funding be more appropriately placed. And I can tell you, places like what you were doing, Maj, you talked about, he's doing incredible stuff, right? And imagine if he didn't have to worry about the people who are giving him shit because they ordered T-shirts. Well, I'm pretty sure he's not looking to be a T-shirt manufacturer. He's trying to do impromptu, gun education in places that are pretty much abandoned. And, you know, if you the responsibility of worrying about T-shirts from him, imagine what he can do. So there's people that are putting some tremendous effort out there in all different parts of the country. And like I say, all this is hopefully working towards seeing all these things prosper, because it doesn't take ultimate funding from any one source for any of these. It's just a more deliberate distribution of the funding that's already there can really take us a long way.
Exactly. Because my T-shirts, I don't have T-shirts here. I'm not in the T-shirt business. I found a guy who makes shirts. He's a veteran also. He said he wanted to help. He, you know, of course he has to make money too, but like he's selling everything at cost for me or as close to cost as he can get. And it's just awesome that he's willing to help. So you can go to, you know, the site and pick up one of our promotional shirts or one of our riot shirts. It's not riot shirts, rally shirts. And I'm not in the T-shirt business because I didn't want to hold stock. I didn't want to be saddled with this because, again, I'm paying out of pocket. What the heck am I going to do with a small T-shirt? Clean my car?
Yeah, or how many, you know, how to buy how many smalls and mediums and
exactly. And that's money out of pocket. Now, okay, now I spent that money. Now we have 3 weeks event for 40 people. You know what I mean? It's a limited amount of funds, and people, and I guess much like you. It's like when you start talking about money, some people roll their eyes, and I'm like, none of this is for free. Like it's not for free. You know, the food isn't for free. The guy is allowing me to have the venue, but you still have to pay for the room. It's just that simple. And then some ranges in Jersey are really frustrating because they want to look at this as a money-making venture, and it's not. You're not going to make a ton of money, but how's this? On your slowest day, I can bring 40 people in. Like give us a break. That'll be $400 you didn't have before. That's 40 people that are coming to your range that might not have even known where their place was. Okay, what if 3 people become members? Like you made $400 and you got 3 new members of the range, and that's just this trip. But some of them go, well, we charge $25 a head or, you know, $60 an hour to shoot here. I'm losing money. I'm like, they're not there. No one's there. You're not making that money. So, I mean, just when you get money involved.
There's somebody in Montana that sold some stock or something happened and they've got a couple extra bucks they need to diversify so they can get tax write-off on it. And, you know, we're talking $400 when, you know, think about what people spend on everything. We're a real rich country. So, you know, our food, our entertainment, our toys, our time wasters. I mean, if people just were a bit aware of that, and we can be discouraged and ashamed of talking about money. And I know there's people who talk money because they're maybe ashamed of something or they think it's, you know, not appropriate. But we're capitalists, and if we don't challenge the audience, then what real value are we offering to them? If we just allow them to continue to be sheep or pawns in a big game, that's not empowering our audience at all, and it's definitely not challenging them to make a decision with their wallet. We are conned out of our money daily. There's people that go to college to learn how our brain works so that they can figure out what color to make the bar of soap so that it influences our decision. And if we're going to allow that to happen quietly and then scorn people that are trying to affect something and just need a relatively little amount of funding to make, you know, just great strides, then again, we're not challenging our audience and we're not doing them any favors. So if you're the person that rolls up your eyes, they're probably not listening to this, not my conversations, but that's the kind of thing that if we continue to just not talk about that stuff, then we won't see anything change. So that's why I kind of lost all decorum with that. I lost toleration for the people that'll just, they're not exploiting stuff, but they'll just casually, you know, cash in while, you know, there's issues that could, I don't know, better use some of the funding that's going to some of this stuff that's just a waste of time.
Like I post up when somebody donates to the GoFundMe, you know, I put it on my social media, and you know, you get $100 donation or $1,000 donation. I had that happen a couple of times. I'm like, you understand, $5 helps. Like a $5 a month to the Patreon. I don't know anybody else's financial situation other than my own, but that $5 donation helps me pay for websites, help me pay for other things. And if I can depend on it coming in, I know I can, write that check and spend that money. And that helps. So it doesn't have to be $100, it doesn't have to be half your paycheck or something crazy. I don't know how people decide to donate, but it doesn't have to be a lot of money. That's what I'm trying to show. But it can be, a $500 difference means I can get an actual new iPad that's not busted up like the one I have. So when I am on podcast, it just turned off. That's why I got kicked off before. So yeah, I need stuff. I need stuff as a, foundation. I need stuff to everyday running of what I'm doing. It really helps out.
What is the t-shirt site? What's that site?
1022clothing.us.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it's like 5'11" clothing, but for bigger dudes. It was an offhand joke, and it worked out. But yeah, you can go there and pick up the 2A4E t-shirts.
1022 what?
1022clothing.us.
I'm throwing the link around right now.
It might be even a link on diversityshoot.com. I don't know.
The description of the video here, so if somebody's listening to this on one of the other platforms, you know where to find it.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, again, not doing this to become a rich dude, not doing this to become, but I really feel this needs to go on. I'm a fat guy. I need to get in better shape. So 2019, I'm going to make that part of this because as a firearms instructor, defensive firearms instructor, people own guns to defend themselves and their lives. And I really need to be in shape if my life is important. So hopefully some dudes will join me and go, hey, I'm a fat dude too. Let's get in shape together. Because I want to do this. Walking around on SHOT Show floor, if you've done that, or the NRA, dude, your back and feet, everything hurts at the end of the day. And I need to drop some pounds just so I'm not dying when I'm going to the NRA in, was it Indianapolis this year?
Right on. Yeah, it's in Indiana this year.
I went to Atlanta last year and it about killed me. I'm talking about fat dude. I'm one of them.
Well, we know that a lot of people are. That's not a gun thing. That's just a country thing.
Yeah.
And stuff. But I've gone up and down, and I'm up right now too. So I've been thinking about doing a thing where I call it like Walk and Talk 2A, where I just go live at some point and then make it a chat room like this one, except nowhere near as structured because I'm just going to turn my computer on and go walking for an hour or two, and then invite whoever wants to come in, and then use that as an opportunity to talk 2A because that's all I care about. But at the same time, talk about how regular dudes can change their habits, basically. There's quite a few good movies out there. I'm a vegan. I don't know, or mostly vegan. People have a fit about it if you say anything. But it's like eating pizza or eating Italian food. You can like whatever you want. Doesn't mean that's all you're allowed to eat. But I haven't eaten beef or chicken since 1989. And, everybody's got their own opinions on everything. But rarely do we talk about being healthy, and there's some very simple things. For example, not eating soda, not drinking corn syrup. That affects chemically how your body reacts to the other stuff you eat. So that can make a big difference. Just the things like putting some exercise in. So I've had effective weight loss in the past whenever I want to just by quitting drinking sugar and eating sugar, breads or whatever, and then walking. So I know that other people have had other effective strategies. There's lots of the meat-only type of diets and the ketosis type of things. We've got a guy on Gun Channels who chats with us regularly who's been on a real routine for a year now, doing exercise and diet, and has stripped a lot of pounds but kept muscle on. So he's actually in much better shape than he's ever been. And again, it's not something that any one of us has any interest in like promoting or bringing out. But if we can have a chat where we talk about 2A and then also just kind of casually talk about what's working and what's not, so that we're a little healthier, so that we can stay in the fight and, like you guys said, just be a little more fit, then I'm down for that. And if you guys want,
you should make it so that only those people who are walking get to come on.
That's what I was thinking. Just have it just a bunch of people that are walking. Because that's kind of encouragement. And we get into these chats and stuff, and so often we're just sitting and Terry when we're chatting.
Yeah, I think it should be interesting. I'm willing to try it. Just fat dudes breathing heavy on the internet's going to be a different case, but whatever.
They're where you can chat pretty quick, and that's one of the things that's how you know if you're walking fast enough, right? If just below out of breath, that's how you know you're at a good level of exercise or something.
But the community, dude, we have a sense of camaraderie in this community, and a lot of people don't understand it. And we have to really exploit it and go, hey, you want to be part of this? Come be part of it. Now, this is how to keep it going. This is how we can keep our rights. And I have friends that are gun owners that go, I don't like talking about the politics because it's frustrating or it's depressing, especially in Jersey, because all of our fights are going to have to end up in court. Like the politicians, this state is so blue, anti-gun laws are going to pass. They're going to get to the governor, they're going to get signed. Then our fight has to go to court almost every time. That's what's going to happen in the next 4 years. So it's frustrating as a gun guy to know there's nothing you can do, but I'm like, nope, you got to stay in the fight. Not only do we have to stay in the fight, we have to grow the community. And some gun guys going, I don't want to have anything to do with it. So that's why I do the Minuteman Challenge to go, you're about to lose this. Yeah, this challenge sucks because we're limited to 10-round magazines now, so we have to change all the rules. You know what I mean? Like how this is run. If you want to do something about it, this is what you got to do. I'm trying to tie it all together and build that community and just show how it affects you now that you're in it, now that you're going to a diversity shoot every other month, now that you're competing in the Minuteman Challenge, now that you're showing your friends how to shoot because you're more out of the closet as a gun owner. You know what I mean? It's like grow it and then turn gun owners that are participating into activists. That's what I'm trying to do.
And I think it happens naturally too. Once you're involved in something and you see that it's being attacked, your reaction is, hey, wait, why? You know, what's going on here? What can I do?
Yep. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. One of the scariest things I ever had happen, my regular job as a locksmith. I went to a guy's house to change the locks on his home. And of course, being a gun guy, I don't know how it came up. Oh, I think it was when I first moved here. I asked if there any gun ranges. He said, I don't know. I got a 357 Magnum, though, for my home protection. I forgot how it came up, but it came up organically. It wasn't just me asking about guns. And I was like, oh, a 357? He was like, yeah. I said, where are the local ranges? Because I want to practice with my firearm. He goes, I don't know. I was like, well, where do you practice? He's like, oh, I don't. I just bought it, loaded it, and stuck it in the top of my closet. I'm like, so you've never shot it? No. I was like, well, you got a 3-year-old. You lock it up? He was like, oh, no, my son can't reach the top of the closet. It's like, yeah, we sell safes, man. They're not really that expensive. He wouldn't buy one, but it was like, that's the typical gun dude. He's not into the firearms lifestyle. He doesn't go. I mean, I'm not saying he's a typical gun dude. I'm just saying he's one of them.
But that's a typical story of someone who's just like not in the community, right? And just like, well, I want to participate, so I'm going to buy one. Yeah, like a golf club or a guitar.
Exactly. And I'm like, no. So that's the guy I want to come to one of my events so we can talk about firearm safety, so we can get him to start shooting and maybe lock his darn gun up. And maybe even get his kid to shoot, or I can teach his kid to shoot. You know what I mean? But it's growing the community. Just having that stuck in the top of his closet, that's not even a concern of that guy's. I guarantee you he's not an NRA member or a member of any local anything, including the range. So he doesn't vote based on his Second Amendment right. But he can go to jail just like anybody else if they make that gun illegal. Like if you have... Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, yeah, that's like an example to me of not somebody who decided, I'm just going to buy a gun, I'm just going to do this, I'm just going to do this, knowing the whole picture and decided that. He's in a state where it's restrictive, and because of that restriction, the result of that restriction is that there aren't ranges that he can just go to. He couldn't, you know, at the range, the shop, he didn't have an opportunity to shoot it or something. He doesn't know because it's not in the newspapers about the local shooting competitions or anything. So he basically, you know, is he's a result of the circumstances. I don't think it's a result of him knowing the whole picture and deciding. So a lot of people will hear that story and go, oh, well, that guy's, I'm better than him, or that guy should have. He's just doing his thing. Like if he bought a golf club or a racket or something, and it's just that there happens to be a constitutionally protected right behind this thing.
Exactly. And I try to tell people that all the time. Just if you listen to my podcast, you're more into guns than the average gun owner. Average gun owner has that thing. Like, people don't know. In New Jersey, it's illegal to own a M1 carbine. Like by name, you cannot own an M1 carbine legally in the state of New Jersey. You know how many people have those here and don't know because they aren't in the community? They've never read the law. They've never looked through it to see. And you can go to jail like for 4 years, period, for owning one. They don't know. They don't know the magazines that their granddad brought back from World War II that are 15 rounders are illegal, and you do 18 months per magazine. They don't know.
And lose your rights.
Oh, yeah, you lose your rights. It's a third-degree felony. It's a third-degree felony, and this is one of the other problems. When this law passed, the 10-round magazine limitations, in June, it became a third-degree felony for any of us regular citizens to have a 15-round magazine out of our house. Like, you could have a 15-round mag in your house, but you couldn't take it to the range. Well, it also covered police officers with their off-duty guns. But for us, it was a third-degree felony, meaning you lose your rights. But for cops, it was a fourth-degree felony. And that's why we take them to court. That's why you have to go, wait a minute, how can you have a different law for someone because they're a police officer? Like, there's a different penalty. Both of them are against the law, but there's a different penalty for the same quote-unquote crime, quote-unquote.
And what's this mindset that a cop who's on duty is justified and authorized to carry whatever capacity, but somehow their ability is diminished as soon as they're off the clock? Like,
as soon as they punch off the clock, their ability to defend themselves is diminished by 5 rounds.
crazy.
But here's the crazy part. They signed an amendment to it that now off-duty cops can carry 15-round magazines too. 15 to 17-round magazines. They still have a magazine limitation of 17 rounds in Jersey for cops. So if you have an XD 9mm full size, you have to have a 15-round magazine because I think they hold like 19 rounds, right? Yeah.
So they can only put in like a blocked magazine, basically.
Yeah, because possession of a magazine over 15 to 17 rounds is illegal. And yes, the thing says 15 or 17. It's when they put in rules just to deny you. One of the things I said in my speech, and one of the things I really mean is gun control is built upon a racial strategy. It doesn't make sense. Just like racism doesn't make sense, gun control doesn't make sense. When you can have a rule like, well, it's 15 to 17 rounds. Or in New York State, you can have a 10-round magazine, but you can only load 7 rounds in it. Like, that's how stupid these laws are.
Well, there's a pause, and I'm thinking it's pretty late, so we've probably been going for a while. I think it's been a good conversation, but I noticed our viewership is dwindling on both sides. So I think it's been a great conversation. Thanks, Tony, for jumping in. Thanks, both Tonys, for jumping in. Thanks, Gary, for being here. Roosted was in here, and Adam, thanks for participating as well. And I'll continue to send out emails. I'll include you, Tony, from now on. You're welcome to jump in. I try to run these workshops every Tuesday and every Saturday with the goal of uniting the 2A media, letting us share each other's resources. And ideally, once the 2A media is working together as efficiently as possible, when we bring our list of resources, our arsenal to the gun rights organizations that represent us, they'll have a better idea of what reach they'll have, and we can be a little bit more united. I think it was a disappointment after the Gun Rights Policy Conference last year to see only one gun issue on the whole midterm election. We really had a possibility, a potential there to really put some effort into other states working towards defending Washington State's BS law that went through, and an effort to work together. So many of us are into guns, and we go to the range to train so that we can shoot when needed accurately or efficiently. And we need to start doing that as advocates as well. And we want to empower people with the skills and the resources. We want to try to end the duplication of efforts. Over the 15 years that I've been going to SHOT Show, lots of things have kind of gone in fits and starts. And if we are aware and work together, we can possibly eliminate some of that redundancy and start to stand on each other's shoulders and reach new heights. And I'll continue to effort with the help of my Patreons who give me the time to do this on Tuesdays and Saturdays. I'll continue to reach out to Second Amendment advocates, researchers, authors, podcasters, video people, and people like Tony. They're putting boots on the ground. They're actually in communities doing stuff with their time that's better than anything any of the rest of us are doing. And if we can help you guys do your efforts, if we can bring you the funding and the eyeballs to make your efforts more successful, then we all win. And I'll end it on that. I guess I should say all the links to Tony, SimonSaysTrain are in the description of this video, so they'll be distributed wherever this video goes. Artisan Tony is Artisan Tony on YouTube and Instagram and the other platforms. And see everybody on the 2nd, where we're going to try to have a talk about our Second Amendment again. And it's our last one before SHOT Show. So I'll continue to effort towards the people that are going to be going to SHOT Show to make it as useful as possible this time around.